Number 10. The Dawnbreaker. The Dawnbreaker was so unstoppable that he managed to destroy his entire world. This version of Bruce Wayne hails from the Dark Multiverse, from Earth -32. Here Bruce's story goes as anticipated in the beginning, with him being just a child when his parents were gunned down by Joe Chill. However, young Bruce in this tale is instead granted a Green Lantern ring following his parents' deaths, and ends up joining up with the Green Lantern Corps. The oath of Green Lanterns, though, does not necessarily resonate with Bruce, with him only seeing his ring as a means for him to get his revenge. Despite the fact that the Green Lantern's rings normally cannot be used to kill, Bruce pours his inner darkness, his void of emotion, into this ring, corrupting it and thereby willing it to kill, and even using it to temporarily raise the dead. He goes on to kill all of the criminals of Gotham, face off with the Green Lantern Corps and successfully kill them and the Guardians of the Universe, and of course destroy the entire world. Well, his entire world. A world. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like? Number 9. Helena Wayne. Helena Wayne goes on to take up the Batman mantle on Earth 2. The New 52, Earth 2 that is. This version of Helena Wayne was helping her father to fight against an army of parademons as his Robin when she was transported to another world. Now on this Earth 2, Helena Wayne is actually the daughter of Bruce, so yeah. Despite the fact that her father did not survive that battle, Helena and Supergirl both did, being transported to the Prime Earth continuity. While here they initially were also unstoppable in their search to find a way home, at least initially. Despite the fact that Huntress, aka Helena Wayne, the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle, would eventually give up on this dream, she and Supergirl would also eventually be returned home to Earth 2. Once there, Helena would go on to also take up the mantle of Batman.
And at number 8, Superman.
You think you can threaten my mother?
Arguably one of the strongest characters in the DC world, Superman is beyond ready with a host of superpowers to prepare him for any given situation. Superman is often held as the pinnacle of justice and moral superiority, which is perhaps one of his more annoying superpowers. Although the more threatening side to him that should be stopped is his ability to live forever and fire friggin' laser beams from his eyes. Again, all of these overpowered abilities are in regards to these heroes operating on Earth, and the comic books have played with this idea before, for example the time that Superman just decided to take over the entire Earth and establish a dictatorship. Hope you have your kryptonite ready because we're going to stop Superman altogether. In at number 7, Supergirl. Who's more overpowered than Superman, you ask? Well, how about his cousin Kara Zor-El? Due to Kara also being a child of Krypton, she maintains all of the same powers and abilities as Superman, making them physical equals. However, even so, it's been argued that the last daughter of Krypton may be a little bit stronger than her cousin. Several times the two of them have even teamed up against villains, and repeatedly they have commented on her greater strength. Although they could have been trying to mess with Superman's brain, but if you look into her strengths, they may be right on the mark with that one. Supergirl needs to be stopped because the last thing that we would want is a family of supers from Krypton showing off on Earth. And at number 6, Shazam.
It kind of tickles.
Look, just because this overpowered superhero's name sounds like something a magician would say before pulling a rabbit out of a hat doesn't mean we shouldn't take him seriously. Each letter in his name stands for a different Greek mythological entity, those being Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. Want to get really scared of this superhero? He is so powerful that he was able to be ripped apart by the vacuum of space and then completely bring himself back together. On top of being able to transform from the body of a child into a superhero just by saying the word Shazam, he also practices magic. I mean, with a name like that, how could you not, right? Well, in terms of DC Comics, those who are proficient in magic often gain significant advantages over all other powers. In at number 5, Martian Manhunter. First off, anyone who introduces themselves as a Martian Manhunter needs to be stopped. How has this odd alien mixture of Batman and Superman been allowed to roam free? Martian Manhunter is so ridiculously overpowered that he has even been nicknamed the Swiss Army knife superhero. His powers are evenly matched with Superman, but with some extra abilities kind of sprinkled in. Along with heat vision, the Manhunter can also see in different spectrums, which means even if someone was using invisibility, he could spot them. Now, if you think that's too much power, let's not forget that he can also read minds, shapeshift, and access telekinesis. To top it all off as to why this overpowered DC superhero needs to be stopped, the only evidence required is that Superman himself has said Manhunter is the only Justice League member that he fears. Thankfully, there's only one of him left. In at number 4, Captain Atom.
I control radiation, Superman. That includes red sun radiation.
Also known as Nathaniel Atom, he was a United States Air Force officer during the Vietnam War. After being framed for a crime that he did not commit, Nathaniel was sentenced to death, but was first invited to take part in a military experiment. The experiment was sure to kill him, but if he were somehow able to survive, he would receive a presidential pardon. And after surviving the experiment of putting him in an alien spacecraft and setting off a nuclear bomb under it with Atom inside, the metal fused with his body and launched him 20 years into the future. Now with his atomic powers, he can control the quantum field, absorb cosmic energy, and do everything a superhero can do in regards to invulnerability, super speed, and flight. Although listen to this statement from Captain Atom and it will be all the evidence you need for why he needs to be stopped. He says, "My name is Captain Atom, as in A-bomb, as in nuclear fission, as in the end of the world." Yeah, he said that. Stop him, somebody. In at number 3, Dr. Manhattan.
Something lethal. Or if I know what that means.
After appearing in The Watchmen and the recent events of DC Rebirth, the once nuclear physicist named Dr. Jonathan Osterman became an official member of the DC universe, although it's his godlike identity of Dr. Manhattan that we should be fearful of. A terrible accident in an intrinsic field subtractor had completely transformed him into the blue anti-hero that we must now stop. The Doctor is impervious to all assaults, can manipulate all atomic and subatomic particles, and does not need food or water to stay alive. Wow. He doesn't need food or water to stay alive. Like, how are we gonna stop this guy? The reason we should be suspicious of this overpowered superhero is that his actions make it difficult to classify whether or not he's good or evil. So, let's just stop him. In at number 2, Phantom Stranger. This overpowered superhero is a mysterious mystic who has walked the earth for centuries. Although he has only appeared a few times in the comic books, when he did show up, you knew that something big was going to happen. The Phantom Stranger has a ridiculous amount of superpowers that seems to never end, with his magical abilities really knowing no bounds. Aside from being immortal, he can generate energy bolts, teleport, and even stop other magic in its tracks. His real name is Judas, and after having a big hand in killing the Son of God, he was, for whatever reason, gifted with all of these abilities. With all of those powers though, Judas is unable to directly interfere with the crisis and is implored to only guide the heroes. God forbid one day he attempts to overrule this stipulation, we would be in for a world of hurt. Lastly, in our number 1 spot, the Spectre. Before becoming this overpowered hero, the Spectre was Jim Corrigan, a Gotham City police detective. When his fiancée Gwen was kidnapped, the Phantom Stranger guided him to where she was being held. Unfortunately for Jim, it was a trap, and soon his soul would be imbued with divine powers, dubbing him the Spectre. Spectre is another one of those heroes that have near unlimited powers, and on top of that, he's a supernatural being tied to a human host on a mission to strike fear in villains around the world. He literally has shown how destructive these powers can be when we saw him completely obliterate an entire universe in a blink of an eye. Now ask yourself, is this the kind of power that a human should have? Yeah, we didn't think so either.
Number 10. Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy, also known as Pamela Isley, wields a formidable and unique level of power that sets her apart as one of Batman's most powerful villains. Gifted with a deep connection to plant life, Ivy's powers encompass both botanical manipulation and a heightened affinity for nature. She can communicate with plants, control their growth, and command them to bend to her will, utilizing them as powerful weapons or protective barriers, and she can do this on a global scale. Her toxic touch, stemming from her ability to secrete potent pheromones makes her a dangerous foe in close combat, assuming combatants can even get that close. Her expertise in biochemistry allows her to concoct various deadly toxins and antidotes, making her a master of botanical chemistry, and she can pretty much heal herself at will. What truly makes Poison Ivy fearsome is her ability to bend the very ecosystems to her command, unleashing nature's wrath upon her enemies. Now this isn't as impressive as her other feats of power, but she is also quite good at seducing her enemies, bending them to her will, which she has even done to the Man of Steel. Usually this is done with toxins, but sometimes just through straight up charm. With her compelling blend of power, allure, and eco-conscious motivations, Poison Ivy has been an incredibly popular villain who few can really stand against. Number 9. Larfleeze. Larfleeze, or Agent Orange, is one unique character in the emotional spectrum, and that's because he's the sole wielder of the Orange Light of Avarice. He is the only member of the Orange Lantern Corps. Larfleeze is driven by an insatiable greed that grants him dominion over all that he desires, driving him into conflict with whoever possesses what it is that he does desire, and over the power of the Orange Lanterns, which represent greed. His power is centered on his ability to conjure constructs using the stolen identities and forms of those he has absorbed into his horde, making him basically an army unto himself. This ability extends even to abstract concepts and beings, showcasing the extent of his control. The big thing about Larfleeze is that since he spent so much time with his Orange Lantern and ring, he has basically become the living Orange Lantern himself. This energy grants him huge levels of power. His constructs are virtually indestructible and can overwhelm even the most powerful opponents. However, Larfleeze's power comes at the cost of his individuality, as his insatiable greed makes him less of a person and more of a living embodiment of greed itself. Even without the power of the Orange Lantern, his race is already basically immortal, with Larfleeze himself being billions of years old, and with enough power that I seriously doubt he will be going down anytime soon.
Number 8. The Batman. I think one of the most unstoppable Batmen I've seen recently, despite his youth, would be our Year 1 Batman from the now Elseworlds DCU movie The Batman. In this film, Batman is played by Robert Pattinson and is presented as a version of Bruce who is still kind of struggling to find his footing in the city of Gotham as a hero. In fact, many people actually fear and revile Batman at this point, GCPD included, who, other than Jim Gordon, are not really on his side. However, despite being less experienced in comparison to some of the older, more established versions of the character, I would say that Batman, against all the odds here, is still impressively unstoppable. This likely has to do with the fact that he is not only attempting to prove himself as an ally and force of good to the city and its people, but also kinda to himself, trying to find a purpose in a world that he seems to have become increasingly disconnected from. In the end, Batman realizes that hope above all else is one of the most important things, not fear, and we see him begin to make his way down the path to becoming the hero that Gotham needs. Number 7. Jason Todd. In Battle for the Cowl, Batman is believed dead, and a final message is passed on to the Bat family members. Among those summoned to hear Bruce's final words is Jason Todd, former Robin, sometimes villain, and all around just a pretty complex character and vigilante. With Bruce absent, Jason believes this is his opportunity to prove himself and take up the cape and cowl. As Batman, Jason is relentless, not shying away from bloodshed or killing the criminals he comes up against, and dons a heavily armored suit and the former mask of Michael Lane's Azrael when he was the Bat Devil mask. This version of Batman is not against using guns, making him even more deadly, especially when he obviously shoots to kill. Jason Todd's version of Batman managed to best Nightwing, Tim Drake, and Catwoman in battle, successfully defeating all of them, although in the end, Nightwing did return and manage to defeat Jason, but this was also in part due to Dick gaining the upper hand in their final fight. Well, I mean, not their final fight, because, you know, this is comics, so there's a lot of stuff that happened after this, but just in regards to this specific story, I mean. Number 6. Dark Knight Returns. Of course, we have to have Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's dark, futuristic take on an older Bruce who chooses to return from retirement and don the cape and cowl once more. I mean, he is kinda the definition of unstoppable, is he not? This version of Batman ends up literally leaving retirement as an old man to come back and kick some butt. And he does a pretty freaking great job, I gotta admit, even almost beating Superman before seemingly dying of a heart attack, but even then, not really. So while Superman seemingly wins the ultimate and famous fight between the two of them, it's revealed that in the end it may have all just been part of Bruce's elaborate plot, meaning that as always the detective also wins in the end, especially because Superman's kinda like, yeah, I know he's still alive, it's all good. Number 5, Dick Grayson. Well, not quite as adept and skilled as Batman is, Nightwing has the range of skills to excel as Bruce's replacement, which is what happens in the New Earth continuity after Bruce is believed to have been killed in a fight against Darkseid. Dick Grayson ends up taking up the Batman mantle in his adopted father's absence, believing that Gotham needs Batman and that it would be unwise to let it be known that the original Batman is gone and dead. While Nightwing has many accomplishments as Batman, I more wanted to discuss him because I believe that not only is Dick Grayson a great option when it comes to the Batman legacy, but that recently, even outside of that, he's definitely proven himself to be unstoppable as a character, with or without the Batman mantle attached to him or even affiliated with him. Lately, he's been excelling as Nightwing, the protector of Bloodhaven, and is returning once more to lead the Titans, who will become the protectors of Bloodhaven, and obviously the protectors that Bloodhaven is desperately needing right now. A symbol of hope for a place that is sometimes presented as being even more corrupt than Gotham. However, it should also be noted that before this, Dick was also offered the opportunity to lead the Justice League, following the events of Dark Crisis, with Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman all seemingly coming together to decide that Nightwing was the best candidate to lead a new league in their absence. Of course, even though Nightwing was flattered by this, he chose instead to bring the Titans back and return as their leader. Or well, I mean, the Titans never really went anywhere, but he was like, we're gonna do Titans now instead. Ba-ba-ba. Number 4, Batman Red Sun. Batman Red Sun is definitely one of the most unstoppable Batmen around. He hails from Earth 30, an alternate world where Superman's Kal-El instead fell to Earth and landed in Soviet Russia, growing up there and becoming a Russian hero as opposed to an American one. Batman is a hero who actively fights against the Soviets, seeking revenge for the death of his parents, who were murdered by Stalin's police. Batman eventually is manipulated into taking on Superman himself, and while he does fail to kill Superman, Batman still makes an impressive attempt there. Especially impressive when you consider that this Batman, like so many others, is completely unpowered. And despite not physically winning that fight, choosing to die rather than allow himself to be captured in the end, Batman still manages to reveal the truth about the people that Superman works for, turning Superman against them and thereby getting his own revenge, despite not being alive to see it fully realized. Batman also lives on after the initial man's death that represented him, inspiring others in Russia to take up the mantle in his place and continue the fight for justice. So although the original guy that was Batman in that reality is dead, Batman still lives on and becomes unstoppable because legacy. Number 3, God of Knowledge. While still technically the main continuity Batman we currently have in the DC universe, and not in the traditional sense an alternate as in someone from another Earth or an Elseworld story, as we counted Dick Grayson before, who is also in the main continuity, I would like to present this version of Batman who represents a specific time in Bruce's life when he happened to gain the powers of Mobius, or at least the power of Mobius's chair. This was a device and tech that was initially used by Mobius, aka the Anti-Monitor, but given to the new god Metron by Mobius, before Batman ended up taking it for himself during Darkseid War. The chair grants whoever sits upon it vast knowledge, and also allows whoever pilots it to travel through time and through to various dimensions. In other words, this made Batman pretty insanely unstoppable. During Darkseid War, various heroes and villains took on new identities, becoming not new gods in terms of, the group of cosmic beings, but new gods in terms of them becoming gods, which was new gods, not new gods. Number 2, Batman in Bethlehem. In an alternate future, Damian Wayne ends up becoming Batman, and everything goes pretty crazy as a result. He takes up the mantle following the death of Dick Grayson, who ends up becoming Batman after Bruce retires. Following the death of his adopted brother, Dick Grayson, Damian sees killing as kind of the only way to deal with criminals like the Joker, who ended Dick's life in this case. However, Bruce disagrees, refusing to let Damian take up the mantle of Batman initially, and eventually kicking him out of the Batcave and Bat family as a result of his actions. Eventually, Damian would earn his father's forgiveness and his respect once more, and go on to take up the mantle, continuing to be Batman even after both Bruce's and Alfred's deaths. However, he would once again be seen as a killer, a much crueler and less forgiving version of Batman in the future. Damian even goes so far as to sell his soul to seemingly the devil, and in the end, Gotham ends up the victim of a nuclear attack in a harsh and chaotic apocalyptic futuristic world. Still, Damian never gives up, and even goes on to renegotiate his bargain with Simon Hurt, who is suggested to be the devil here. Number 1. Batman Who Laughs. Batman Who Laughs is hands down one of the most despicable and unstoppable Batman we've ever encountered, I think, in the comics. What makes him so unstoppable? Well, he's kind of an unreal combination of Batman and Joker blended together, and I would say it's that makes him so interesting, unique, and ultimately unpredictable and unstoppable. I mean, think about it. He has all the logic and skills of Batman, but the level of cruelty and off-the-wall thinking of the Joker. When he sets his mind to something, usually the Batman Who Laughs ends up on top and gets what he sets out to get. And I know what you're going to say, but Amanda, hold on a minute. Wasn't he defeated during Dark Knight's death metal? Yes, he ultimately was, but at the same time, look at all he accomplished before that. I mean, this is the guy who was able to take down one of the most powerful villains out there, Perpetua, who is older seemingly than time itself, known as one of the hands of creation, and is the mother of both the Monitor and Anti-Monitor, as well as, the World Forger. So that's pretty wild to me.
In at number 10, Major Disaster. Also known as Paul Booker, his alias of Major Disaster should be all you need to hear as evidence as to why this super is overpowered and needs to be stopped. During his tenure as one of the DC superheroes with the Justice League Antarctica, that's a thing, his motivations for good didn't last very long. With powers of disaster manipulation, it's troubling to think that the Justice League would have ever even considered him to be a hero at all. Maybe they were thinking, hey, let's stop natural disasters and use this guy to do it, but instead, they just created a B-list villain. Paul's ability to see the chains of chaos and assist in causing natural disasters are all enough to list this dude as having too much power for his own good. In at number 9, Zatanna. The daughter of famed magician Giovanni Zatara, Zatanna quickly established herself as a successful stage illusionist in her own right before even discovering how overpowered she actually was. In order to channel her magical abilities, Zatanna must say her spells backwards, and with this power she can pretty much do anything. This includes a control over the elements, and her ability of atmokinesis allows her to create a spell that can manipulate the weather. For example, the time that she turned rain into falling petals. Oh, how nice. Sure, that was cute, but what would happen if she chose to use the elements against humans? Her control over the elements should be extremely threatening for us normies, and after spending some time training these abilities, Zatanna became even more overpowered, now having full control over light, shadow, time, and space, all of which could now bend at her will. In at number 8, Orion. Also known as Darkseid's adopted son who was raised on Apokolips as part of a trade intended to be a truce with the new Genesis. Spoiler alert, that didn't last very long. Orion is very OP. How overpowered is he? Glad you asked. In Jack Kirby's New Gods, we follow a race of celestial superhumans, one of which was Orion. Orion is often referred to as the Dog of War by even other New Gods. He's so incredibly overpowered that he was able to actually kill his own father. Well, adopted father to be specific, but his standalone powers, while impressive, pale in comparison to what he is able to achieve using his A4. The A4, or Astro Harness, is that cosmic looking extension that's attached to his body. The harness allows for Orion to fly, teleport through boom tubes to any location in the multiverse, and fire off powerful energy blasts that can pierce through nearly any enemy. In at number 7, Dr. Fate. Just so you don't get your tidy whities in a bunch, the incarnation of Dr. Fate we'll be talking about for this point and the most OP is Kent Nelson. The two main reasons for this is his time as the longest resident magician for the DC universe, and the fact that his origin involves a monkey named Detective Chimp. Again, how cute. To touch on just how overpowered Kent is, you have to look no further than when he intervened in a war between the two rulers of Hell. He was able to stop them both from destroying the universe, but he himself is also guilty of destroying an entire alternate reality. And in order to stop Dr. Fate from taking the fate of the universe into his own hands, someone simply has to remove that helmet he wears. wears. The Helmet of Fate holds the spirit of an ancient Lord of Order, and those who wear it gain the near limitless power that it has, although once removed, they will be left entirely powerless.
Number 8. Old Lady Harley. Old Lady Harley is pretty epic. For those who are unfamiliar, she makes her first appearance in Harley Quinn issue number 42 from the 2016 series, aka Volume 3. Volume 3 total overall. This version of the character exists in a DC parody version of the Old Man Logan universe from Marvel. Much like in Marvel's Old Man Logan, the world and specifically NYC and Coney Island have pretty much gone to hell, becoming a post-apocalyptic landscape. Despite being older, Harley ends up returning to Coney Island and ending a turf war by battling her gang of Harley's members, claiming the title of ruler of NYC by beating their unsuspecting selves handily. Number 7. DCU. Whether we're calling it the DCEU, standing for the DC Extended Universe, or the rebranded version that we now know, the DCU, simply standing for, DC Universe, the live-action world of DC definitely has one of my favorite versions of Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. Why do I think she's so unstoppable? I mean, have you seen her in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad or Harley Quinn Birds of Prey? She's completely unstoppable in both. In The Suicide Squad, Harley gets kidnapped, and while the squad make a plan to rescue her, she actually ends up escaping all by herself. That's right, Harley rescues herself here. In Birds of Prey, there are many moments where she seems completely invincible to me. My favorite is probably the car chase scene, which we get near the end, where she goes after Cassandra Cain, who's kind of being held hostage at this point by Black Mask, and Harley actually goes after them while they're in a car on roller skates with the help of Helena Bertinelli's Huntress. It's epic. Also, if you haven't watched Harley Quinn Birds of Prey yet, what are you doing? It's so good. Number 6. Bombshells. I think one of my favorite versions of Harley around is the Bombshells version, who also happens to hail from one of my all-time favorite universes in the DC multiverse. Don't you know? In Harley Quinn's series Harley's Little Black Book, Harley even teams up with this alternate version of herself, and together, well, not really working together, but more working separately and it kind of just working out. Well, rather Bombshells Dr. Quinzel working, and main continuity Harley just kind of messing around and getting lucky how she usually does. They end World War II. I don't know about you, but to me that feels pretty unstoppable. That's a big task even in an alternate fictional universe. That's a big task even in the real world. The Bombshells universe is actually set during the time period of World War II and imagines what our heroes, specifically our female heroes and anti-heroes or villainesses, would be like if they existed back then. Number 5. Rebel Against Starro. This is the version of Harley Quinn we are first introduced to through her own Multiversity series. Multiversity, Harley screws up the DCU. In issue number 1, Harley inherits a time machine from a mysterious Professor Incredulous. Against the wishes of her crew, the gang of Harleys and Egg Fu and Red Tool, well, Red Tool isn't really against it, but he is present for this, she decides to jump into the Way Back When machine and of course travels through time. While she doesn't exactly remember her entire journey, seemingly reeling from the experience alone, she does discover that her actions have somehow resulted in an alternate timeline where Starro has completely conquered the planet. She ends up being rescued by her own alternate self, who in this universe is a short-haired badass version of Harley who talks to her own bat and is part of the rebellion against Starro the Conqueror. Number 4. Deadpool. Deadpool is so unstoppable, it's annoying. He has actively destroyed the Marvel Universe before, killing everyone in it. He was so determined to escape a world that he no longer believed was real. Deadpool is also an immortal being thanks to his healing factor, and for a while thanks to the curse that Thanos put on him. Yeah, that's a true story. Deadpool was getting a little too cozy with death and Thanos did not like that. That's because Thanos has always had a thing for Mistress Death and is always trying to win her favor so that they can one day be together. Maybe one day. Thanos has an unhealthy obsession with death, I would say. So Thanos, when his potential future relationship status was threatened, decided to curse Deadpool so that he couldn't die, thereby preventing him ending up with death and keeping the two of them apart. Deadpool for a while was human, and it was during this time that Wade Wilson became a lot more squishy, and I suppose stoppable. But even then, he didn't end up dying, but instead would be reverted back to getting his powers, going from handsome mortal Wade Wilson back to kinda ugly, unkillable Wade Wilson. Oh my gosh. When are we getting the Immortal Deadpool book, I wonder? That could be a whole book. Someone write that. Immortal Deadpool. Number 3. Magneto. I mean, Magneto literally kept himself alive through sheer willpower and massive control of his powers. I think that means he deserves his spot on this list. And for those who might think, yeah, but is Magneto a hero, Amanda? I would say that you could argue for him being on either side, really, hero and villain. Magneto throughout most of modern comics has been villain and hero, but he also kept his blood pumping without a heart to face off against Uranos, which was a heroic feat. So even if you perhaps disagree with my categorization of him on this list, I think you at least have to give him some hero props for doing that, and perhaps at least, I would say a good amount of hero points. Hero points that Magneto has truthfully been racking up over the years, especially recently in the comics. After initially facing Uranos, Magneto was left for dead, which was a mistake on Uranos' part to assume this during the AXE Judgment Day event. As we've learned from Zombieland, you always gotta double tap, aka confirm that kill. It is important, especially if you're facing off against Magneto. Uranos did not follow this rule, assuming Magneto was dead after he took his heart, and as a result, Magneto came back to finish him. Magneto basically used his powers to keep his blood moving throughout his body by controlling the small bits of iron in his bloodstream to basically keep it pumping without having an actual organ to do it for him. Literally heartless Magneto, which sounds terrifying. Later, using all his strength and a power boost from Storm, Magneto was able to defeat the Eternal Villain before he passed away. But I'm sure he'll be back eventually because he is Magneto and he's a pretty great character, so. Number 2, Wolverine. I would say Wolverine is probably one of the most unstoppable heroes that we have over at Marvel Comics. He is a master tracker and is determined when it comes to defeating whoever stands in his way, or when it comes to saving the day. And even when he ends up being brainwashed and used as a weapon, he ends up not letting that stop him, at least not in the main continuity. Although in some of those alternate worlds, he definitely has been brainwashed to the point that he had to be put down. And by Kitty Pryde, no less, in one of them. Ugh, that hurts my heart. That being said, even in alternate worlds where he has become like Lord of the Vampires, he was able and willing to rise up to defeat his fellow evil brethren, even though he knew it would also mean his own death as well, potentially. That's how determined Wolverine is. He's also virtually unkillable. Well, I guess unless you drown him. But even then, Wolverine has fallen into oceans and washed up miles off on another shore unscathed, so for a man that can still be drowned, I mean, he does pretty well to make it out alive of those underwater situations. Number 1, Hulk. I mean, we can't do a list like this and not talk about Hulk, am I right? The Hulk is not just a powerful hero, but he's also a stubborn and determined one. We've seen this shine through not just in his Hulk persona, but also as Bruce Banner before as well, but especially as the Hulk. Let's turn to World War Hulk as an example. In this story, Hulk was shot off planet by the Illuminati and ended up in Sakaar. He not only rose above being a gladiator, helping to lead a rebellion and an uprising, but after Sakaar was destroyed from a ship exploding, Hulk was determined to get back at those who had sent him there in the first place, and then later seemingly ruined his happiness, even though that isn't quite what happened, but that's what the Hulk thought happened, and that's all that really matters. He returns to Earth to get revenge on the Illuminati, and he proves just how deadly he can be. It also goes to show us why you really do not want to make the Hulk angry, because he might just squash you like a bug. He threatens the lives of some of the greatest heroes. When it comes to confronting even Professor X, Hulk manages to take on the mutants who come to his aid, and single-handedly does so, not being defeated by a physical show of power, but instead kinda by a speech about how the mutants, don't really deserve his ire. When it comes to Bruce Banner, we've seen his unstoppable nature as is showcased in the recent Hulk series by Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley, where Bruce turns Hulk's body into his own spaceship, and his mind into the ship's engine, with Bruce remaining in control at the helm, which is pretty crazy. Also, I mean, Bruce kinda took on Thor in a fight at one point and was like, look, I might be Bruce Banner, but give me all the information about how the Hulk fights. I'm a smart guy and I can use that knowledge to basically face off with the Hulk.
At number 10 is Ultron. Ultron, the AI antagonist from the Avengers, delves into the intriguing realm of human-robot interaction. Created by Tony Stark in the MCU, but was actually the mindchild of Hank Pym in the original comics, its prime directive is achieving world peace, and surmises that the only way that would be possible is to eliminate humanity. Ultron's self-improving nature grants it exponential growth in power and intellect. This villain proves relentless thanks to its ability to adapt, infiltrate networks, and upgrade itself like a superhero Skynet. Its adamantium exoskeleton renders it nearly indestructible, and it can transfer its consciousness across different row-bodies. Row-bodies? I thought that was clever. Ultron embodies the fear of technology gone awry, posing a formidable challenge to Earth's mightiest heroes. Can they triumph over an enemy that evolves faster than they can strategize? If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support this channel by pressing like, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9 is Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo is a cold and calculated strategist in the Marvel Universe. First appearing in the comics back in '64, this mastermind completely lacked superhuman abilities, relying instead on heightened intellect and resourcefulness. Zemo single-handedly orchestrated the Avengers' downfall from the shadows by exploiting their weaknesses and triggering internal conflicts. His Machiavellian approach showcases that physical power isn't the sole path to supremacy. With a tragic backstory and penchant for manipulation, Zemo remains an enduring antagonist. Whether it's through psychological warfare or intricate schemes, he serves as a reminder that sometimes the most formidable adversaries come not from superhuman might, but instead from within the human psyche. At number 8 is Kang the Conqueror. Hailing from the pages of Marvel Comics, Kang is a time-traveling, history-manipulating enigma. His real name is, well, that's a bit tricky. You see, he has a whole bunch of identities due to his time-traveling shenanigans across different eras. Or, I mean, dimension hopping, depending on how you want to look at it. In the MCU, Marvel is treating alternate timelines and alternate dimensions like they're the same thing, so we'll just have to deal with it. But I digress. Off the top of my head, he goes by either Nathaniel Richards, Rama Tut, Scarlet Centurion, Immortus, Kid Immortus, Iron Lad, Mr. Griffin, a Doctor Doom, and of course, Kang the Conqueror, thus making him probably one of the most convoluted characters in comic book history, as there are innumerable iterations of the character spanning countless eons. For example, there are versions of Nathaniel who become Rama Tut before becoming Kang, others who after becoming Kang become Rama Tut again, only to then become either Immortus or Scarlet Centurion, and or back to Kang. Some flip between Rama Tut and Kang before becoming Mr. Griffin, while other Kangs don't become Kang at all and instead become Iron Lad. Yeah, it's really messy. And as you can already guess, what makes Kang truly interesting is his mastery over time, hopping around like a temporal tourist gone mad. With advanced future tech and extreme intellect, partly on account that he's a descendant of Mr. Fantastic, he's a challenge that is as much a puzzle as he is a powerhouse. His various incarnations, alternate selves, and mind-bending plots make him a true headache for our beloved Avengers. Wrapping your head around Kang's complexities might require a time machine of your own.
Number 7, Mephisto. Within the Marvel Universe, Mephisto is, for all intents and purposes, the devil. He isn't actually. Technically, he is a demonic hell lord who rules over his own hell-like dimension and enjoys stealing people's souls by tricking them, and he does that by pretending he is the actual devil, playing on people's fears, so basically, he's the devil. While Mephisto is within his dimension, which he calls hell, he is immortal, omniscient, and impossible to destroy. It's only when he ventures into other realms that he can be defeated, but doing so just kind of returns him back to his own dimension. He has been a major player in the Marvel Universe since his creation and has been either a key or supporting player for many major events. He was the Snake in the old Adam and Eve story. He was directly responsible for the creation of Ghost Rider. He's infamously erased the history of Peter Parker and Mary Jane's marriage in order to save Aunt May's life. I mean, he even popped up a hotel out of the ground in Las Vegas that manipulated the citizens and let him take their souls. He has been defeated and outmaneuvered multiple times, but he has never permanently been stopped. Number 6, the Phoenix Force. Now, it's important to say the Phoenix Force is not a villain, technically. It is a cosmic entity representing all life in the Omniverse. The Phoenix Force will exist as long as there is, was, or will be life. If the Phoenix Force were to be destroyed, if that were even possible, all life would follow after it, as well as the ability for life to have begun in the first place. The Phoenix Force is just a force of nature, but it has been used as a darker force of power in the past. For example, when it inhabited Jean Grey during the Dark Phoenix saga. It was at this time the entity was a villain, using Jean's insane levels of psychic power, which it then amplified to godlike levels. With this entity inhabiting her body, Jean and the Phoenix destroyed an entire solar system and attacked her fellow X X-Men. Jean had to actually bring her own end just to stop what was happening, and when the Phoenix regained its memories of all the evil it had done, it brought Jean back to life to help make things a little better. And that's not the only time. There was the whole X-Men versus Avengers thing, and there was that time that Thane, Thanos' son, had the Phoenix Force. Almost every time the power of the Phoenix Force comes up, it usually corrupts its bearer and makes like a big stink. Like a huge stink. Big old fart. Number 5. Dormammu. Most fans of Doctor Strange know Dormammu. This being composed of pure magic energy rules the dark dimension and spends most of his time taking over other realities as he finds them. He's essentially immortal and capable of wielding godly power over magic, the dead, souls, and pretty much anything, really. When he is in our reality, he can be thwarted and returned to his own, usually by the Sorcerer Supreme, but within the dark dimension, he reigns supreme and cannot be taken down, like, at all. Using his vast magical abilities and the influence of his power, he is constantly trying to invade our reality, and even when he is banished back or he is stopped, he always comes back eventually, and he has been doing this for millennia. Number 4. The Beyonder. The Beyonder is a singular entity with no duplicate versions of himself in other universes, similar to the Phoenix Force. And also a lot like the Phoenix Force, Beyonder is basically like a baby in that he is a younger member of a race called the Beyonders that are a near omnipotent alien race from a dimension outside of the multiverse. He is himself basically a whole universe. It's really hard to explain, but as he observes Earth and the Marvel Universe and the various races, he gets a little curious, and the Beyonder decides to study and analyze life and humanity, good and evil and conflict, and to that purpose he pits Earth's mightiest heroes and villains against each other in the Secret Wars. Now, he did this by destroying an entire system of planets and creating Battleworld from the remains and from parts of Earth, so that's one level of power right there. Beyonder's powers surpass that of Eternity and the Living Tribunal, but that has been retconned recently. And he is capable of manipulating reality to his will, being able to pretty much do whatever he wants and then grant himself any power he wants. It was actually a huge treat though last year in the Defenders Beyond story when we learned that the Beyonder and his race were actually still in existence, and he was now an adult existing with the rest of the adult Beyonders outside of the multiverse and being all levels of wildly insanely powerful. There's a lot I skimmed over here to make it less confusing, but you should just go read all the Secret Wars if you want to see how crazy these beings actually are. Number 3. Cyttorak. Cyttorak, also known as the Destroyer, is an incredibly powerful extra-dimensional being who was worshipped as a god and as a demon by the primitive humans of Earth until he was banished back to the Crimson Cosmos, which is where he comes from. Now, as the Destroyer, Cyttorak's main goal is to just cause destruction and raise destructive power. Simple as that. To do this though, from the Crimson Cosmos, and also to win a wager with 8 other godlike deities like himself, he created the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, which allows him to select a person to be his avatar, enhancing them to become the indestructible and immortal Juggernaut, which kinda gives us 2 different versions of Unstoppable all wrapped up into one package. You're welcome. Merry Christmas. That's for you. As the Juggernaut is essentially a physically unstoppable force of kinetic energy, unless you're the Hulk, I guess, then you can stop him. I don't know why. Anyways, Cyttorak is such a powerful and unstoppable godlike entity that you will even hear magic users invoking his name to cast some of their strongest spells. For example, the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak. Number 2. The Chaos King. While he is relatively obscure, he is nothing to scoff at. Amatsu Mikobashi, first appearing in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, was mistaken as the Japanese god of chaos and evil, but in actuality, he was an aspect of the cosmic being Oblivion. Now, Mikobashi ruled and thrived over the Earth when it was nothing more than a formless void of primordial darkness. And as such, his goal now is to put an end to creation and bring about a new age of chaos and void and darkness. He is a primordial being who was imprisoned in Yomi, which is the Shinto underworld, which is where he remained for centuries, accruing an army of Oni, which is Shinma demons, and other monsters. Now, during the events of Ares, god of war, Chaos King attacks Olympus after he defeated and controlled the Japanese pantheon of gods, and after the fall of Asgard during Ragnarok. This is what kind of kickstarts his mission in Chaos War, where he slays the Egyptian gods, Celtic gods, Shi'ar gods, gods of Zen law. He takes out Nightmare in the dream dimension, destroys Mephisto, and casts Mistress Death out of hell, making her literally run away. And he releases the souls of the damned. He did all that. He has the power to defeat eternity and is practically unfazed by attacks from the likes of Zeus, God Hercules, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Thor together could not defeat Chaos King. To win, Hercules had to literally punch him into a portal to an endless void of nothingness, and this was after he destroyed 98.76% of the entire universe. That's a lot. Number 1. Chthon. Chthon is one of the most powerful demons to ever exist. Even though he predates anything like this, of all the devil-like demons out there, including Mephisto, Chthon is the closest thing to the actual devil. He and his Ngari actually ruled the earth before the angel Lucifer attacked them, and that was before Lucifer ever rebelled against heaven and became the actual devil. Chthon himself is responsible for all the witches, werewolves, vampires, and other dark creatures, as well as being the master of the most powerful form of magic, chaos magic, which is the same stuff used by the Scarlet Witch. The Scarlet Witch has altered all of reality with just a fraction of that magic, so yeah, it's a lot. His opposite, Oshter, is one of the 3 beings that make up the Vishanti, and they stand in direct opposition to Chthon specifically, creating the Book of Vishanti in response to Chthon's Darkhold. Other demons and dark sorcerers, including Dormammu and Mephisto, call on Chthon's name to cast some of their strongest spells, and the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, was almost corrupted and permanently taken out by Chthon's mere presence alone. He is extremely hard to bring down, and even if you manage to do so, it's only a matter of time until he comes back.
Number 10. Harley Quinn, the animated series. I love this version of Harley Quinn. She is definitely one of my favorites and definitely one of the most unstoppable versions of the character that I have seen. Even when you feel like there is no way that Harley and her crew will be able to survive and move forward, they have a tendency to always come out okay, and often even on top, even in the most dire and bleak situations. Harley Quinn here is also an extremely stubborn and determined character who fights to make a name for herself and achieve notoriety as a famed villain. And for that, we love her and must pay respects. Harley Quinn from her own animated series is voiced by Kaley Cuoco. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us that you love us by clicking that like button. Boop. Number 9. Batman the Damned. Not only is this version of Harley completely terrifying to behold, but she is also fairly deadly as well in practice. After the Joker was killed, this version of Harley decided to start dressing up as him and terrorizing Gotham in his stead. At one point, she even almost takes down Batman herself. Possibly even more frightening to consider when it comes to her power is that Harley herself was likely mistreated by the Joker, and uses this to fuel her own sense of brutality and violence. While I would still say this Harley was initially pretty unstoppable, this version of Harley also has, what do you call that, when you're like a corpse and you have those scars? She got those, so I feel like if you got that and you're alive, and I'm just saying, that seems pretty crazy to me. While I would still say this Harley was initially pretty unstoppable, it should be noted though that she was eventually forced to rein in her attack on Batman. You know, because it is Batman, so at the end of the day. Also, it's literally a series named after him. Sadly, we don't have a Brian Azzarello Harley Quinn the series. Or maybe fortunately we don't have that. I don't know if I'd want that, to be honest.
Number 8. Time Trapper. The Time Trapper is often associated with the Legion of Superheroes, and he operates as a master manipulator of time. If you know comics and time travel, then you know that this gives the Time Trapper control over the fabric of reality itself. Possessing the power to alter and manipulate the past, present, and future, the Trapper can rewrite history on an unprecedented scale. He was able to age anyone he chose to the point of bones or ashes if he wanted to. He was capable of creating an iron curtain of time, which was a barrier which prevented time travel. The Time Trapper was also able to create a temporal force barrier which he used to seal a time-traveling Superman off from the 20th century. He was able to take a slice of time from the post-crisis DCU 1 million years in the past and craft its Earth and Krypton into reality similar to the recently destroyed Earth 1 universe, forming a pocket universe. He made a pocket universe. That's nuts. These are godly feats of time manipulation and control. Often depicted as a shadowy, hooded figure, the character's level of power is so vast that even immensely powerful cosmic entities such as the Timeless Ones tread cautiously in his presence. On top of that though, he possesses power with size alteration, intangibility, flight, telepathy, telekinesis, alongside symbolizing the very essence of temporal manipulation and unpredictability in the DC universe. Number 7. General Zod. Hailing from the planet Krypton, General Zod possesses the same superhuman abilities as Superman due to their shared origin. These abilities include super strength, speed, invulnerability, heat vision, and flight, making him a physical match for the Man of Steel. What set Zod apart though is that he was originally the leader of the military defense for the Kryptonian Science Council. He betrayed the Science Council after learning that they were lying to him about the inevitable destruction of the planet Krypton, and was banished to the Phantom Zone by Superman's father, Jor-El, who he swore vengeance against for not siding with him. His formidable combat experience and tactical genius acquired during his time as a military leader on Krypton make him a fearsome adversary in battle. Zod's obsession with Kryptonian superiority and his unrelenting desire to establish dominance often drive him to harness his power to their fullest extent, doing things that would make Superman faint. Throughout his appearances in DC Comics, General Zod's determination, belief in his cause, and great power, coupled with the fact that he pretty much always comes back somehow, make him pretty hard to put down for good, unless you're Henry Cavill. Number 6. Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage was alive 50,000 years ago as a chief of a tribe of other cavemen, but when he came into contact with a strange meteorite, it exploded and bathed him in this strange alien radiation that gave him immunity to aging, disease, and fatigue, meaning he is effectively immortal. The meteorite also increased his intelligence to superhuman levels, which combined with 50,000 years of learning, experiencing, and living alongside every single technological innovation in the history of man, Vandal Savage possesses skills in almost all areas of the human experience, even basically becoming immune to pain. Specifically though, he focuses on the tactical skills that would help him become a world conqueror. His schemes range from being a conqueror to a criminal mastermind, leveraging his intellect and immortality to reshape civilizations and wield substantial influence. His power is further magnified by his ability to learn and adapt from each encounter, making him an almost insurmountable adversary for even the most powerful heroes. With his immortality, intelligence, and complex motivations, Vandal Savage is one villain that seems to just keep on popping up. Number 5. Parallax. This cosmic entity is a cosmic entity, so it kinda defeats what I just said in the intro, but he's the living embodiment of fear and has created several problems for different heroes over the years, and still he's somehow kind of small and relegated to like this corner of DC. Originally imprisoned by the Guardians of the Universe in their central power battery, his presence would eventually lead to the corruption of a couple of the Green Lantern Corps' power rings, creating the Yellow Lanterns. Parallax is immortal and exists as pure energy, unable to be destroyed, and more than capable of manipulating matter and energy on a cosmic scale. He's able to generate such intense fear in a person that he can actually control them, having done this to several heroes without much effort over the years, the likes of which include Superman and even Wonder Woman. His biggest feat would have to be the corruption of Hal Jordan though, causing the guy to do some pretty unspeakable things like wiping out the entire Green Lantern Corps. Funnily enough, that wasn't the original reason, but DC just retconned it to that so Hal could seem a little bit more redeemable after he just did that. Well, there you go. Number 4. Reverse Flash. Eobard Thawne is what happens when you take the Flash and make him utterly insane. Possessing a deep obsession with the Flash, Thawne's connection to the negative Speed Force grants him superhuman speed and reflexes that meet those of the Scarlet Speedster himself, and sometimes go a little bit past that. This negative Speed Force grants him a kind of power over time manipulation and enabling him to travel through time at will. This mastery of temporal mechanics allows him to alter history, create alternate timelines, and manipulate events to his advantage. His ability to affect the past and future makes him a uniquely terrifying opponent, as he can unravel the very fabric of reality itself. Then, as a villain of Flash, Eobard's intimate knowledge of the Flash's life and history enables him to anticipate his every single move, making it extremely challenging for the Flash to outsmart him, and Eobard has revealed that he has manipulated Barry's life to be the way that it is, which is kind of just a huge old time loop that probably unravels if you try to think about it too much, but just don't do that, so there you go. This combination of incredible speed, time manipulation, and strategic intellect makes Reverse Flash an arch nemesis who constantly pushes the Flash to his limits, solidifying his reputation as truly powerful, incredibly unpredictable, and very hard to stop. Number 3. Starro. If you have seen the newest Suicide Squad movie, the one with Idris Elba and John Cena, then you know who Starro is. He's that massive, terrifying starfish alien conqueror that was releasing millions of tiny starfish that turn people into unwilling servants. Starro is actually one of the Justice League's earliest villains, and he poses a massive threat as he can use his reproduced drones to take control of an entire population, and he has subdued members of the Justice League multiple times times, just like how it was done in that film. Originally, he could even turn actual starfish into deputies of his, making multiple Starros. Other than the mind control, drones, copies, its immense resilience, and energy absorption, Starro is also incredibly capable with regenerating, being able to grow back fully from just a fragment of his own body. There are some versions of Starro who are the size of an ocean, and they are totally capable of terraforming entire planets. Yes, he's basically a starfish, but imagining an absolutely massive ocean-sized starfish attacking our planet with drones that can turn people into unwilling servants with almost no way to stop it? That's pretty terrifying. Number 2. Eclipso. When Eclipso made his comic book debut in 1963, he was nothing more than the evil side of archaeologist Bruce Gordon that came out during the eclipse. Pretty simple. But then we fast forward to DC's 1992 Eclipso: The Darkness Within, and out of kind of nowhere, Eclipso is revealed to be a powerful cosmic entity representing the wrath of God that turned evil and was cast from heaven, replaced by the Spectre. Now, he is an entity who is trapped in a gigantic black diamond that was cut into smaller diamonds, one of which was found by Bruce Wayne years and years ago. In an event called Darkness Within, these fragments of the black diamond were activated on various powerful beings, allowing Eclipso to possess them, and one of these beings happened to be Superman himself, and the world's heroes had to fight tooth and nail to try and stop this powerful possessed Superman. It was the wizard Shazam and Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, who finally stopped him, and with the help of the Spectre, Eclipso was forced back into the reformed diamond, but he's not gone. He's still around. He's just chilling in the diamond somewhere. Number 1. Solaris. Introduced in the storyline DC 1 Million, Solaris stands as a sentient, malevolent, artificial sun from the 20th century, but he survived till and had a bigger part to play in the distant 853rd century. That's a lot of centuries. What sets Solaris apart from other villains is its status as a living star, a conscious being born from the fusion of advanced technology and the essence of a dying sun. Possessing vast cosmic power, Solaris is a relentless foe who manipulates radiation, gravity, and I mean, he's a sun! He's hella powerful, manipulating immense energy to reshape its surroundings and project formidable attacks. Its motivation lies in a deep-seated desire to spread its influence and attain ultimate dominance in the universe, but also in the fact that he was defeated by the second Superman and has vowed vengeance against all Supermen who pop up after that. Solaris possesses a unique threat that transcends traditional physical battles, becoming the concept of a living sun with malevolent intent, adds an enthralling layer of cosmic mystery and existential danger, and I don't want to think about that. Coming in at number 10 is William Marvell. Every now and then, I have the pleasure of talking about the Amalgam Universe, the place where Marvel Comics and DC Comics finally played nice and mashed up their characters together to give fans some of the coolest, most unique, and most powerful iterations of their favorite heroes. For the Amalgam Universe version of Shazam, I think the two comic book giants made a really cheeky move when they gave us a combination of each of their Fawcett comic character iterations. William Marvell, a mix of Billy Batson from DC and Mar-Vell of the Kree from Marvel Comics. William here is a young boy that is transformed into a super scientific, energy projecting superhero called Captain Marvel whenever he shouts the word Kree! Now, as silly as it would be to go around shouting Kree, it really just makes sense for this to be the amalgamated version of Captain Marvel and Captain Mar-Vell. Captain Marvel was a key member of the JLA, or the Judgment League Avengers. Number 9, Mary Marvel. Mary Marvel isn't an alternate Shazam in the way you might think, meaning she isn't from an alternate universe. Instead, Mary Marvel is part of the Shazam family, arguably one of the favorites of that family. Mary Bromfield was one of several children adopted alongside Billy Batson. In other continuities, she is eventually revealed to be the twin sister to Billy, but just like DC said with their continuity, you can choose whichever one you prefer to believe in. Mary eventually is given powers by her brother Billy and becomes Mary Marvel, or Lady Shazam, fighting alongside Billy/Shazam. Eventually, Mary herself became the new champion of Shazam and gained all the power that Billy once held while he became the guardian of the Rock of Eternity. Mary is one of the longest lasting members of the Marvel family, and as such, she is one hell of a version of Shazam.
In at number 6, Metamorpho. Rex Mason can alter his body into chemical elements, but apparently his body doesn't know which chemical it should be. He looks like a group of broken toys stitched together for a last-minute last-minute art project. But regardless of his appearance, his strengths are not to be taken lightly. After being exposed to the energy of an ancient meteorite, Rex found himself being transformed into this metahuman form. Due to this mutation, Metamorpho can transmute his body in whole or just partly to whichever element he so chooses. Everything from elasticity to a wide variety of liquid, gas, or metallic elemental compounds. While Zatanna had full control over the elements of the world, Metamorpho has them readily available on his own body composition, meaning as much as they can be used for good, they can also easily be weaponized, which is another big reason why he needs to be stopped. In at number 5, Black Adam. For the most part, people recognize Black Adam as Shazam's sworn enemy, but he's actually been quite heroic a few times throughout the comic, and that's what allows him to be on this list. One time he actually saved the world, but on the other hand, he is also responsible for starting World War III. Even that though came from a place of good. After the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse planned to kill both him and his wife, they succeeded in the latter, and thus his wife's dying words were to avenge her. It was this pivotal moment of a super using their powers for their own needs that I keep cramming down your throat as to why they need to be stopped. Now filled with a lust for war, Adam committed a genocide in a region that had 2 million residents just because one of the horsemen were hiding there. This began the war and saw Black Adam not just defeating China's own super, but taking on anyone who opposed him, which included the Justice Society and the Teen Titans. In at number 4, Booster Gold. For the most part, Booster is seen as kind of a joke, but recently the greatest hero you've never heard of is slowly becoming one of the DC's most important heroes. After stealing a super suit, a Legion flight ring, and a time machine, Booster had ambitions of being a super for the fame and glory, and once having the spotlight in DC's first major full-year weekly event 52, Booster Gold became the guardian of the time stream. His duties were to correct any anomalies before they could unravel the fabric of the universe, but in order to do so, Booster had to continue acting as the comic relief and general buffoonery that everyone had known him for. This title though of Guardian of the Time Stream still puts Booster Gold in a very powerful position, such as the issues where we saw him assisting both Superman and Batman when it came to messing with time in their own respective comics. Plus, judging by his earlier character motivations to be a famous superhero, we believe he needs to be stopped. In at number 3, Wonder Woman. We all recognize that Wonder Woman is the crown jewel of the DC universe both in film and the comic books, but in our opinion, she's becoming far too OP. In Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, Diana was able to fight off Doomsday and sustain much less damage than both Superman and Batman. In addition to having crazy physical combat skills, Wonder Woman has proven to be just as strong and fast as Superman. Plus, she has a telepathic ability that allows for her to not just control, but communicate with every soldier on Earth. As you can see, Wonder Woman's bracelets of victory come in handy for deflecting projectiles and energy blasts, but without them, she's actually stronger. The bracelets limit her power for the safety of her enemies, but take those things off and who knows what this overpowered DC super could do. In at number 2, Firestorm. This hero has so much power that it took 2 people merged together in order to create the fiery, overpowered hero known as Firestorm. Even in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Firestorm is incredibly OP. Firestorm is consistently utilized as one of the biggest weapons in the Legends' back pocket. The danger with bestowing so much power into one united being is where does it all go? With the ability to absorb an atomic bomb detonation and transmute matter, Firestorm is literally waiting to explode. There is no doubt in our minds that Firestorm is capable of taking on any villain by himself, and combined with the Firestorm Matrix, there's no telling what he's capable of. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Batman. Many of you were triggered upon us leaving Batman out of the first part in this series, so we searched far and wide to find the most overpowered Batman, and look who ended up in the number 1 spot. Back in 2008, a series called Trinity brought the gang of the most powerful DC elite back together again. In the series, they discovered that Morgan Le Fay had colluded with other magic users to alter their reality, and this new world yanked Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, replacing them with villains. They soon found themselves dropped into an alternate reality where they were gods. Batman became Atman the Night Judge, and due to more primitive beings worshipping at his feet, the hero could practically do whatever he wanted. There you go, Batman, too strong, gotta be stopped.
Now, coming in at number 10 is Wondrous Man from Earth 11. Talking about unstoppable alternate Wonder Woman, and of course, a man makes the list. yikes. Dane of Elysium is from the alternate Earth of Earth 11, and he isn't the only gender-swapped hero. In fact, all the heroes you may be used to are swapped. Here, the Amazons are an all-male race of warriors. The Themyscirians had actually joined with the world, creating a matriarchal society, and this group of male warriors made their way to the Isle of Elysium, where they would remain segregated from the women's world. Dane was their prince, and a hero to the world, until he wasn't. Dane found himself expelled from the Justice Guild, this world's Justice League of America, and banished from women's world when he took the life of Maxine Lord for controlling Superwoman. Dane didn't take too kindly to this banishment, and so he decided to fight for his honor and the honor of the Amazons of Elysium by invading the United States and battling the Justice Guild, the Freedom Fighters, and the Army of Atlantis. In at number 9 is Flashpoint Wonder Woman. Flashpoint is one of the groundbreaking stories to come out of DC, presenting us with an alternate timeline caused by the Flash. It's also going to be the basis for the DCEU's Flash movie. What I have not heard word on just yet is if the Warlord version of Wonder Woman from Flashpoint will show up in that movie. By all that is holy, I hope she does. This version of Wonder Woman is already Queen of the Amazons when we are introduced to her character, and she's in a bitter rivalry and war with Atlantis and its ruler, Emperor Aquaman, which is a stupid name. That whole conflict started when her mother, Queen Hippolyta, was removed from the living at Wonder Woman and Aquaman's wedding. Diana then took the life of Mira as retribution, and the conflict snowballed until Diana had taken complete control of the UK as the new Themyscira. This version of Wonder Woman is basically the same as the standard Wonder Woman, but it's her feats and her title as Queen of the Amazons that makes her pretty much unstoppable.
In at 8, Batman. I think we all knew Batman was going to be on this list, but I'm guessing most of you figured that he'd be number 1. And while I can't deny that Batman is bad, I can honestly say that I don't think he's overpowered, but he's still unstoppable. It doesn't matter if he's rich, okay? There should be no possible way that he can get whatever he needs, whenever he needs it. But like, the best ability that Batman has is his plot armor, okay? It's not his money, it's not his martial arts mastery, it's not his gadgets. He can get whatever the story needs, or whatever he needs, so he just doesn't die, just because killing him off would be a horrible idea, okay? It's like, oh, it's Superman, but there's only 1 ounce of kryptonite left in this world. Oh, don't worry, Batman can get it because he's rich. I don't like that, okay? My friend was obsessed over Batman, and I think he's overrated, and I can hear the sounds of pitchforks and torches being lighted, like, in the comments. You're also lighting your pitchforks, but like, come on, okay? Come at me. Batman isn't all that, and that's why he's at number 8. He's also at number 8 because of his plot armor. That's his ultimate power and why he's unstoppable, but still. In at 7, Martian Manhunter. The Martian Manhunter possesses highly advanced reasoning and logic capabilities and uses them to great effect. Despero once claimed that Ted Kore's mind, his IQ of 192, was only second to that of John Jones. The Martian Manhunter's particularly astute reasoning capabilities and long-term association with Earth's global population gives him an edge in dealing with humans of diverse governments, cultures, and religions. And as a result, in the northern hemisphere of Earth, the Manhunter is one of many costumed adventurers battling against entropy. Yet in the southern hemisphere, he's more well known than even Superman. In addition to this, the Martian Manhunter is the most powerful telepath on the planet and is one of the strongest telepathic beings in the universe, which some also consider to be due to his intellect, or something that adds to his intellect, since he can control the minds of others. He's able to read the mind of any human with no difficulties, and the only minds that can cause him trouble are insane minds. He can even read the subconscious mind as well. He's able to read minds over great distances and has been known to scan the mind of every human on Earth within a matter of moments. Okay, I just wish he was a therapist so that he could tell me what my subconscious wants instead of me trying to figure it out on my own, because clearly that's not working. Oh wait, no, he can't read insane minds. And at 6, Green Lantern. I've been talking about this particular run a lot recently, but Emerald Twilight from back in 1994 showcases just how unstoppable Hal Jordan can be if he wants to. The story begins with Hal holding a doll in the middle of what was once Coast City. Yeah, it exploded, or was at least destroyed. Grief-stricken, he recreates the entire city using his power ring, including its deceased inhabitants, as well as his father, which violated the Green Lantern Corps code, which forbids lanterns from using their powers for personal gain. He's then contacted by a Guardian of the Universe who reminds him of that and reprimands him for it, but Hal drains the holographic projection's energy and travels to O to use the central power battery to permanently reconstruct Coast City. The Guardians send other Green Lanterns to stop him, but Hal's determined to achieve his goal and unleashes destruction destruction on anyone who's getting in his way. He absolutely tears through the Green Lantern Corps. As Hal's rampage continues, the consequences of his actions ripple throughout the cosmos, and Green Lanterns are vanishing and their rings are inexplicably disappearing. Even Guy Gardner, who's wearing Sinestro's yellow ring, witnesses the devastation caused by Hal's actions. Alright? This dude just wanted to rebuild a city and ends up decimating the Green Lantern Corps for it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with he's pretty unstoppable. Halfway through, and at number 5, the Atom. Ray Palmer is the Atom, the mighty might, a superhero with the ability to shrink to incredible sizes while retaining his full mass, making him insanely nuts. Ray Palmer is a hardworking, dedicated man, and in fact, dedicated is hardly a word for it. Driven is a little closer to the truth. Once Ray starts working on a problem or a puzzle, there is absolutely no stopping him. Aside from his crime-fighting career, he is also one of the world's top scientific minds, given his background as a physicist, and yeah, gay, it's freaking nuts. He's capable of shrinking to subatomic sizes and explores the universe on a frontier unknown to any other man. He also created the Atom suit that allows him to do this, having it be tech instead of a superpower as well. So yeah, it's kind of putting him on the level of like Hank Pym and Tony Stark from the Marvel universe, which are some of the smartest characters in Marvel. But the dude can turn small, have a punch that's like a bullet, like Ant-Man, but can also fly while small, instead of being stuck on the ground. So yeah, I think it's fairly safe to say that Ray holds a powerful spot in the DC universe. Or at least he's up there, okay?
Number 4, Deadpool. Yes, he's an anti-hero, and no, I don't really care. With powers originating from Wolverine's genetic mutation, only stronger, Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, is a product of the Weapon X program, making him not only pretty difficult to take down, but also pretty difficult to defend against. But through his time, he's managed to become even more capable. At one point in the comics, Deadpool becomes infatuated with Death. As in Mistress Death. This is the same Death that the Mad Titan Thanos is in love with. Now, because of this little weird love triangle and Thanos being a big grumpy jealous boy, he decides to, quote, gift old Wade with immortality, preventing him from ever being able to fully be with Death. In reality, he just vowed to return Deadpool to life no matter what it took if he ever managed to pass away. And coming from Thanos, that's pretty much the same as immortality. But even without that, Deadpool's healing factor renders him basically immortal, as he no longer ages, can live and control his body without his head attached, is highly resistant to foreign chemicals, immune to all diseases, telepathic attacks, and possessions. This guy is a master assassin and has the power of breaking the fourth wall, which, in a way, gives him almost godhood in comic books. Number 3, Ghost Rider. While the Ghost Rider is in control, Johnny Blaze only influences its decisions to an extent, as he takes the, quote, back seat. Now, Doctor Strange has stated that Johnny Blaze is simply a mortal and acts as a built-in safety, limiting the power of the Ghost Rider or the Spirit of Vengeance. Doctor Strange also stated that when the Spirit of Vengeance takes possession of the Ghost Rider's powers are, for all intents and purposes, boundless and, quote, godlike. So not only is the Ghost Rider really cool, but he's quite a hardy fella. He's essentially impervious to almost all forms of normal damage, or the damage he has sustained, like having his head completely obliterated, didn't actually matter since he just instantly reformed and didn't even feel it. The Ghost Rider has tanked hits from the Hulk on multiple different occasions and was one of the main heroes called in when Hulk returned for his vengeance on the Illuminati in the World War Hulk story. Since his body becomes a flaming skeleton, most projectiles just kind of pass straight through him or bounce off of his incredibly strong bones. The only things that have been shown to actually hurt him are heaven-forged or blessed weapons. Also, because of the divine or demonic energies that empower him, he can basically feel no fatigue or pain of any kind. And if anything were to actually damage him, he can recover from his injuries pretty much instantly. But all that combined with his Hellfire, soul, and sin manipulation, demonic magic, a somewhat fallible penance stare, and other insane abilities after becoming the king of hell itself, makes Ghost Rider someone who most villains and heroes fear even on their best days. Number 2. Scarlet Witch. As a natural conduit of one of the most powerful forms of dark magic, chaos magic, the Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff, is one of the most terrifyingly powerful beings in Marvel Comics. Using her chaos magic, Wanda has the very powerful ability to alter reality, which she has used to create her own children, bring the Avengers to their knees, even completely ending a few of them, and even rewrite all of reality to make mutants the dominant species for a while before wiping a ton of them out. When she was born, Wanda had a natural affinity for magic. This was boosted up by the gift, or curse I guess, of chaos magic given to her by the elder god Chthon. And this was then boosted up again by the experiments of the High Evolutionary at Wundagore Mountain, which gave her an even deeper connection to magic. She can channel energy from other dimensions and from entities like Chthon, Sidorak, and Morrigan, and is considered to be the nexus being of the universe. Most magic users could make this list, but few of them can do what the Scarlet Witch can do. Number 1. Jean Grey. There's a reason that Jean Grey was chosen as the favorite host of one of the most powerful cosmic entities in the entire Marvel multiverse. As an Omega level mutant with not only telepathy but telekinesis as well, Jean Grey is one of the most powerful mutants alive. She is the most notable, powerful, and skilled telepath in the entire Marvel universe with seemingly limitless potential. Her telekinesis allows her to manipulate matter and energy, creating impenetrable force fields and moving objects with her thoughts. This combination of telepathy and telekinesis grants her incredible versatility in combat and problem solving. Jean's unparalleled strength lies not only in her powers but also in her fierce determination and unwavering sense of justice. Her ability to tap into her full potential, stay level-headed under pressure, and make split-second decisions makes her virtually unstoppable. But then, she actually is unstoppable, proven by the fact that even without the Phoenix Force, she has been able to bring herself back to life through her abilities and her sheer force of will. Despite facing countless adversaries and moral dilemmas, Jean Grey's indomitable spirit and strength of character have solidified her position as one of the most powerful and iconic figures in not only the X-Men mythology, but in Marvel Comics in general. Coming in at number 10 today, it's the Sentry. With the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, is not just another Marvel version of Superman. In my opinion, he is even cooler than Superman. The Golden Sentry Serum gave Robert Reynolds more than just the highest level of strength in the universe, the ability to move and fly faster than the speed of light or just teleport, and near invulnerability. The Sentry also has molecular manipulation abilities that have allowed him to defeat the Molecule Man, photokinesis which allows him to shine brighter than the sun itself, turn completely invisible and produce blasts of light from his hands and eyes that could burn the Hulk's skin and level whole city blocks, psionic abilities that he uses to hold himself together, implant his memories in others, erase minds, and stop the hammer of Thor, biokinesis abilities that have let him heal others, resurrect himself, reconstitute his molecules, and as the Void, give others cancer. Speaking of the Void though, that is a whole other dark side to this hero that is intrinsically tied to his existence, which is not only incredibly powerful in its own right and makes the hero 10 times more interesting, but when Sentry combined with the Void, this godlike being somehow got a power boost and he even became a Horseman of Apocalypse, which did the same thing. Number 9. Adam Warlock. First appearing in 1967 in Fantastic Four number 66, Adam Warlock was created by the Enclave, who were experimenting to create a perfect human specimen. This made him super strong, durable, fast, and able to store and use huge amounts of cosmic energy to make him fly, release blasts, and all kinds of things, including cocooning himself to help him heal and regenerate. As it turns out, that last one is kind of the thing that makes him unstoppable. Every time he cocoons and regenerates himself, he actually comes out more powerful than when he went in and evolves even new powers. With the name Warlock, you'd assume that he can also use magic, and you would be right. He is able to use, quote, quantum magic, which lets him teleport, make force fields, move at the speed of light, create wormholes, resurrect himself and others, have cosmic awareness, and frighteningly manipulate, remove, and judge the souls of others. He has altered the evolution of beings, he's manipulated matter, matter, turning Thanos into stone, and then he wielded the Infinity Gauntlet, and is one of the main wielders of the Soul Stone specifically. This guy is basically Space Jesus, and one of his biggest feats is completely embarrassing the hell out of Mephisto, Marvel's most powerful demon in his own realm. At one point, he accidentally defeated the entire universe, including all cosmic entities except the one above all, who then just recreated reality with Adam Warlock as the new living tribunal. He's nuts. Number 8. Blue Marvel. A former Marine and scientist turned superhero, Adam Brashear is not only one of the strongest heavy hitters in Marvel Comics, but he is also one of the smartest characters and one of my absolute underutilized favorites. His origins take place in the 1960s during a project to use antimatter as an energy source. Adam and his best friend Connor were caught in an explosion that turned Adam into a living, stable antimatter reactor, which should, in theory, be pretty much impossible. This power is insane. To put it into perspective, 1 gram of antimatter contains the same energy as the device dropped that ended World War II. 1 droplet could power the entirety of New York City for a full day. Using this power, he was capable of effortlessly lifting the 1960 era's American warship Enterprise, which weighs over 93,000 tons, and then he just flew it all the way back to America. He effortlessly moved a meteor the size of Arkansas to save the world. The Watcher said that Adam is capable of splitting the moon in two with a blow, and he was able to directly engage Iron Man, Ares, Wonder Man, and Ms. Marvel at the same time in combat, and just casually overpower them, and then he turned around and pushed the Sentry to the limits of his strength, and then knocked him into Earth's orbit with a single punch. His durability has allowed him to survive a hydrogen device going off literally in his hands and just walking away unfazed. He may be seemingly relegated to the background of Marvel Comics, but Blue Marvel is practically unstoppable.
Number 7. The Samaritan and Winged Victory. Let's get some non-DC or Marvel peeps on these lists. We're gonna look at Astro City, and 2 of its premier heroes, who happen to have a sweet but also slightly baffling relationship. So the Samaritan is a Superman reconstruction, and he is a man out of time who is completely focused on saving people, so much so that he neglects himself completely, even though he is lonely. And Winged Victory is similarly focused, enjoying her superhero persona much more than her civilian one. The rest of the members of the Honor Guard, the not Justice League, set these two up, and they proceed to have a disastrous date. First, they go out as supers, but everyone is too focused on them, so then they change into their civilian identities and go to a diner, which starts out okay, but then the two start arguing about their different hero philosophies, like how as a feminist hero, Winged Victory saves women first when given the choice, while the Samaritan saves who is closest. She also feels he hides in his hero persona and could do more as himself, while he feels she also hides behind hers. They end up leaving in a huff, but ultimately they both feel they had a good time and gave the other a lot to think about. They share a kiss and are later revealed to be a couple, both having taken some of what the other said to heart. Number 6. Hawkeye and She-Hulk. So Hawkeye is the relationship ninja of Marvel. You turn around, a wild Hawkeye appeared. He used charm. It's super effective.
I can't. I'm an Avenger. They're my partners now.
She-Hulk is also known for her relationships, so it seemed inevitable that these two should end up sharing a kiss or two. They do, but it's usually She-Hulk initiating it as either a distraction or a thanks. It's an offer, but not one that either seems to take too seriously. I would take it seriously. Kiss me, Jen. Although she does then throw him after. Is it worth it? Probably. Better than kissing Hawkeye. I'd kiss Tony, even though he has that goatee. Okay, enough. Moving on. Number 5. Carol Danvers and Wonder Man. This was one of the bigger romances for Carol. Poor Wonder Man. Outside of comics, so many people are like, who? He vanished for quite a number of years after his first appearance because of DC. They were kicking up a stink over them having Wonder Woman and Wonder Man being too similar. But when they then introduced Power Girl after Marvel had introduced Power Man, all bets were off. So here's a picture of the two of them making out. She was Ms. Marvel. Fun fact, Wonder Man has the brain patterns used to make Vision, and had a thing for / with Scarlet Witch. Wonder Man and Carol makes sense, but it's a blip for most, and very much part of the let's pretend Carol was never Ms. Marvel campaign going on at Marvel. Side note, I loved her Ms. Marvel costume. Fight me. They have their most prominent thing during the Mighty Avengers. In fact, Ms. Marvel recruits him. This one would fade though, along with Wonder Man for most people. They just keep forgetting about him. But not us. Right guys? Number 4. Wally West 2 and Raven. So this occurred in Rebirth, which presented an interesting conundrum vis-a-vis Wallace West or Wally 2, who had been brought into existence to replace Wally 1, who had been erased because, as mentioned, Dan Didio hates him. So Wally West came back in Rebirth, but Wallace was still around, and if he had been erased out of existence for no reason, tables would have been flipped. Some characters will get tables flipped for them and others won't, we all know this. So he was kept around and was on Damien's Titans team as Kid Flash, and him and Raven, their relationship was very cute and sweet. It was a callback to the new Teen Titans, and Wally 1's feelings for Raven. Only this Raven seems more keen to return Wallace's feelings. He's super earnest, he actually says, "Thanks for sweeping me off my feet." And when she does finally kiss him, she's like, "You told me I should take more risks." Aww, kawaii. Number 3. Ant-Man and Jessica Jones. We're talking about Scott Lang here. This occurs during Alias. Now when most people think of Jessica Jones, they think of her and Luke Cage. They got married, they have a daughter, their marriage was a big deal, because you don't see a lot of official interracial couples in the States' media. But early in Alias, which is Jessica Jones' first appearance, she is actually involved with Scott Lang. He really likes her, but it's not the healthiest relationship, as she's still working through a lot of her trauma, not only from the Purple Man, but from the rest of the superhero community who beat her into a coma. So she ended up cheating on him and getting pregnant, and he ended up leaving when he learned that he wasn't the father. These two were just at the wrong time. And also in Alias, her and Cage are friends, and he's the one person she can tell her darkest secret to, that there's a part of her that doesn't hate the Purple Man, even loves him even though she knows it's not real. And he doesn't judge her. That's husband material right there. Number 2. Beast and Dazzler. That's right, Hank McCoy and Dazzler. They had a mini-series team-up comic that was called Beauty and the Beast. So these two were an unlikely pairing that got together after Dazzler had been outed as a mutant, which had tanked her disco career. But Hank found her charming and lovely and vowed to stick by her side as she got back on her feet. These two would have a whirlwind romance, complete with upside-down kiss and dialogue like, "I don't know what I'm doing. One just goes along and does it." And also plenty of action and adventure and kidnapping and all the like. Pew pew. These two would break up because Dazzler realized she was using the romance as an escape from her problems rather than facing them head on. So it wasn't an equal relationship. So real talk, you know lots of why this exists is because they wanted to use this title. Beauty and the Beast. Boom-tsh. We all know it. And in at number 1, Silk and Spider-Man. This was one of those post One More Day and post Spider-Verse pairings. These two were all over each other, hot and heavy, but the reason that happens might squick you out, might. Their pheromones react together and force them to be very attracted to one another. It's a constant pull they must fight. Is this my high school fanfic? Who's been going through my files? This is, the we can't help ourselves thing. You can look at it a few ways. For me, I prefer when they can't help themselves because of figurative animal magnetism, not literal. These two would break up, and Silk is oft-times pretty mean to Spidey cause girl power? I don't know, she gets real salty at him. She should be salty at the writers. Our pheromones match, my stank matches your stank. Some love these two though and wish they would get back together and view them as endgame. Who's your endgame for Peter? Honestly, when they were together and it worked before you knew it was pheromones, it was pretty cute.
Number 10, Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler does not get enough love on our channel. I know at times I can be the one ragging on him, but at the end of the day, I really do love Kurt Wagner. I think he is a fascinating character and one of the most complex individuals that we actually have on the X-Men team. Even though his teleportation powers are not as impressive as some other mutant teleporters that we have, such as Magic or Manifold, Nightcrawler is still a character whose determination and faith tend to be his driving force, helping him to do the unimaginable at times. And there is no length to which he wouldn't go to help out his teammates, his friends, and his family, the X-Men. In fact, at one point, Nightcrawler even left heaven after his death and returned to life just to help them out. That's pretty wild. Can't stop that. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not let us know that you love us by clicking that subscribe button? Do it! And if you already did it, thank you. You're great. Number 9, Moira McTaggart. You wouldn't have likely thought of Moira McTaggart as an unstoppable mutant. Probably though because you wouldn't have even thought of her as being a mutant, but here we are, and here she is. She is a mutant. During the Krakoan era of the X-Men comics, it was revealed to us right near the beginning, during the Dawn of X period, that Moira this entire time was actually a mutant. What? And what's even more insane is she might have one of the most interesting and powerful abilities out there. Her power allows her to resurrect after her death, but not by coming back to life, but simply by living her life all over again, thereby resetting the continuity, manipulating the very fabric of reality and how we perceive it. Moira has lived multiple lives, always remembering the ones that came before. This gave her knowledge which allowed her to manipulate the course of history. Number 8. Wolverine. One of the most skilled and effective trackers we have over at Marvel Comics, and I would say probably one of my most favorite characters. If you try to run from him, there is likely nowhere safe for you to hide, at least not on planet Earth, and even possibly not in the cosmos either. Has Wolverine ever gone to track someone across the stars? Because that is a story I would love to read. Oh wait, there was something similar to that in the X-Men Infinity comic, where Wolverine was tracking lost mutants through space. Those are the little online ones that you can get on Marvel Unlimited that you scroll through, by the way. They're kind of like webtoons. Wolverine is not a man who often gives up, even when he wants to, and based on how tragic his life has been, there have been many moments where Wolverine has wanted to call it quits, but even then he keeps on going. Not even his own will to give up can stop him from soldiering on. Number 7. Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel is one of the Superman-like characters that Marvel has to offer us. In fact, I would argue of the characters that we have in that category that are like DC Superman, he is one of the most underrated and often understated for how powerful he truly is. Adam Brashear, as he is known, is actually powered by antimatter, in essence becoming a living, breathing antimatter or negative reactor. The antimatter that he harnesses comes from the negative zone, which is why we might refer to him as a negative reactor as an alternate to an antimatter reactor. But he isn't a negative character, just the opposite. He is an amazingly powerful positive character, a superhero. Blue Marvel got his powers way back in the day and has actually been an active hero since the 60s in terms of the comics inner timeline. However, he didn't end up staying as one throughout his history due to the fact that he was black, with President John F. Kennedy heartbreakingly even asking him to retire from heroics because tensions were running high and America just wasn't ready for a black superhero at that time. Fortunately, they're ready now. Which is also great because we need a hero like Blue Marvel who isn't just unstoppable because of his nigh invulnerability, strength, and ability to manipulate energy, but also because he happens to be a super genius as well. And while some might take his temporary retirement as Blue Marvel giving up, really he was more just biding his time. A decade later he would once again return to heroics, joining the mighty Avengers of the 1970s, so he also wasn't out for really that long, fortunately. Number 6. Namor. While some might have more power than Namor behind their mighty fists, I would argue that Namor tends to be even more stubborn and determined a lot of the time. He isn't one to back down, and generally a good speech doesn't really cut it for making him stop whatever it is he's doing. Although he also probably wouldn't attack mutant kind since, you know, he is a mutant. But then again, if mutant kind did something to harm Atlantis, he might. Namor is a mutant, but first and foremost he is a ruler, believing in fighting for his people and their underwater nation. Case in point, when Krakoa first emerged and he was actually approached to join and acknowledge the country, but he decided to reject their offer to join the nation as a mutant. Although I imagine Atlantis would still recognize Krakoa, but I can't remember for certain if that's been mentioned in anything that I've read. Let me know in the comments if you know if Atlantis has acknowledged Krakoa yet. Namor is also in his own right a powerhouse, and while he might not be as well known for his strength as someone say like the Hulk, he also has shared a place on the Defenders team, with him proving how undeniably powerful he is to have earned that place. In fact, the Defenders remains one of the most powerful teams at Marvel, so typically anyone who makes the cut should be considered pretty OP. Number 5. X-Man. I mean, when you have the power of someone like X-Man, it's impossible for you to not be considered unstoppable. X-Man is a reality warping mutant and superhero. He's extremely powerful when it comes to telepathic abilities and telekinetic abilities. Although he isn't always operating on the side of, you know, straight up good, with his morals sometimes getting a little wonky, I would say, like when he thought that, you know, removing love from the world would somehow fix it. At the end of the day, he is generally trying to be a hero and do what he thinks is best. Nate Gray, as he's known, is not from the main continuity, but actually hails from the reality of Earth 295, aka the Age of Apocalypse, and then he kinda got like sucked into the main continuity. In the AOA reality, which stands for Age of Apocalypse respectively, he was created by that world's version of Mr. Sinister, known simply there as Sinister. However, Gray would escape Sinister and end up being raised by mutant hero and one of my fave mutants in general, Forge. So, you know that Gray in general is going to act as a hero because he was raised by one of the best heroes, I'd say. When he did decide to take control of the world, becoming its god and shaping it into what he thought it should be, he was only threatened by basically all of mutant kind coming together to try and stop him. And even then, they failed. That was the only threat that he had, and he was like, well, dealt with that. Of course, while this all sounds kinda evil, becoming basically a tyrant and kinda conquering the world, this was actually done by Nate to fix the world, so it's not as bad as it sounds, really. He was like, look, I'm gonna die soon, and I feel like if I'm gonna die, I need to fix everything. So here I go, I'm gonna try to fix it. And then people were like, yeah, we don't really like when you try to just fix things, Nate. And he was like, okay, well, fair enough, fair enough. Number 4, DCAU. Hailing from the DC animated universe, especially the corner of it pertaining to the Batman animated series, and resulting spin-off comics set in the same universe, we have kind of the original Harley Quinn, to be honest. While it seems a little weird to me to put her on an alternate list, since she is technically the main version of the character, there are those out there who actually still consider her an alternate because she hails from the animated universe as opposed to the comics, even though technically she came first, so she'd be the original. The Batman, the animated series version of Harley Quinn, is often depicted as being a lot more of a dangerous villain. She doesn't often hold back, and she doesn't often act as a hero, unlike the modern day comic book version of the character. This version of Harley Quinn almost seems to be virtually unkillable and has at times broken the fourth wall, implying that she is even aware that she herself is a cartoon character, which to me is pretty powerful, I would say. Harley Quinn from the DCAU appeared in the Batman Adventures comic series and of course in the Batman the Animated Series where she was voiced by Arlene Sorkin. Number 3, Red and Black Lantern. Although I believe the Little Black Book is supposed to be set in the main continuity, I kinda like to consider some of the really souped up versions of Harley as their own alternates. Also, Harley's kinda interesting, and I feel like even if it's main continuity, sometimes it's always kinda wonky with Harley. But although they do sort of represent a period of time in Harley's life in that main continuity, they often also stand separate from that with their own individual tales that stand alone. And for that reason, they feel like an alternate version. Also, I'd be sad that I wouldn't get to talk about them, so here we go with one from Harley's Little Black Book. This one comes from an issue in the series where Harley Quinn teamed up with Green Lantern. Well, she kind of initially faced off against him, but in the end saved Hal and even briefly became a Green Lantern herself. However, Harley got her hands on a Red and Black Lantern ring and became herself a combo Red and Black Lantern, which is why they fought initially, which is also pretty OP as you might imagine, and of course pretty perfect for Harley with her red and black coloring. Number 2, Hammer Harleen. Another one of my favorite versions of Harleen technically comes from a very brief period in her main continuity story. This is Hammer Harleen. Hammer Harleen is a version of Harley who appears for only a few select issues in her 2016 series. While on vacation, Harley ends up getting recruited by Granny Goodness to become a female Fury. However, this only lasts about 1.5 issues as she pretty quickly annoys Granny Goodness to the point that her powers as a female Fury are taken back away from her, and of course she ends up imprisoned instead on Apocalypse, which I mean, if you're a Harley fan, I'm sure you saw that one coming. Don't worry though, with the help of her newfound friend, Petite Tina, Harley does end up eventually escaping back to Earth. Number 1, The Offer. When people often talk about the version of Harley that they think of as the most unstoppable or most powerful version, Year of the Villain tends to be the one that fans of the character most often bring up. When it comes to Harley Quinn comics, including Year of the Villain, I feel like almost anything could actually be considered alt reality. I mean, the lead into this event in the Harley Quinn series happened through Harley reading a Year of the Villain comic itself in canon starring her. Pretty wonky. And of course, when Apex Lex offered Harley her ultimate self as part of this event, Harley actually said, no thanks. So instead of becoming her quote unquote most unstoppable version, according to Lex anyways, Harley ultimately passed, which really makes this crazy cybernetic version of her powered by Yellow Lantern energy and a drop of Lobo's blood an alternate.
In at 10, Superman. The catalyst of the Batman vs Superman story, Superman's power is hardly properly showcased, but this perfect story that shows it and its danger is Injustice. Okay, in the world of Injustice, Superman is driven to extremes by the death of Lois Lane at the hands of the Joker, which is a whole thing. Superman was convinced that he was fighting Doomsday, even though Doomsday was Lois, so yeah, I'm sure you see where that leads, which leads him to believe that he has to take a more aggressive approach approach to maintaining law and order in the world. As a result of this, Superman becomes a ruthless dictator, using his immense powers to control and subjugate the entire world and killing anyone who opposes him. He's willing to use violence and force to achieve his goals, and quickly becomes a symbol of fear and oppression rather than hope and justice. One of the most interesting aspects of the Injustice version is like the way that Superman's portrayed as a tragic figure, because like while his actions may be extreme and villainous, he's motivated by a sense of loss and doesn't want it to happen to anyone else. But this doesn't justify it, and it just shows you how strong he actually is if he wanted to be evil. It also makes him butt heads with the original version of Superman that they have to bring over from his Earth to help them beat their version. So yeah, the only way that this Superman could be stopped is with another Superman. In at 9, The Flash. Okay, literally though, this is a feeling I've seen every Flash fan express at one point or another in their fandom live. That this dude is so fast, nothing should be able to stop him, and honestly, that's a valid argument. I mean, not only is he super fast, but he also is super fast because of the Speed Force, which is a separate, basically godlike entity that chose him to give speed to. This guy's been able to run on water, run up air like it's a damn staircase, beat instantaneous teleportation, and sacrifice himself to save the multiverse and still come back from that. All because of his connection to the Speed Force. He can travel through time, change the entirety of reality like he did with Flashpoint, and honestly, probably destroy the world if left unchecked. So yeah, the fact that some of these dudes have been shot in the head, like Reverse Flash during Flashpoint, or in the comic version he's just stabbed by Batman, is definitely just because of the plot. Otherwise, the Flash and other speedsters would just be unstoppable.
Coming in at number 8 is Freddie Freeman. If we're gonna include Mary Marvel on this list, Lady Shazam, we have to include Freddie Freeman. Freddie is the best friend of Billy Batson, and arguably the second most beloved member of the Marvel family. Freddie was one of the first people surrounding Billy to be also granted the powers of Shazam. He ended up becoming Captain Marvel Jr., but considering Freddie and Billy are like best friends, could you imagine your best friend being like, hey, so I got these awesome powers and I'm gonna give you access to them, but, and I know you're my best friend, but you have to call yourself me Jr. and be my sidekick. Sorry, loser. I'd be so mad, but at the same time, Freddie did eventually become the next Shazam in the awesome Trials of Shazam story. And I honestly dig the long-haired blonde Shazam. He looks awesome, and he honestly did a pretty good job holding the title. Number 7, Just Imagine. So, back in 2002, DC teamed up with Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame, and together they released the Just Imagine series, which is basically DC saying, hey, just imagine if we let Stan Lee come and make a bunch of characters with the basic principles of DC characters, which is such a great idea. One of those characters ended up being Robert Rogers from Just Imagine Shazam #1, and yes, he is Stan Lee's Shazam. When I tell you he is absolutely nothing like the regular Shazam, I ain't kidding. Other than saying Shazam to activate his powers. For starters, he is not a kid. He is actually an agent with Interpol, and he is assigned to the tough agent Carla Noral. Together they go to India to hunt down criminal Gunga Khan. Another big difference is that instead of being powered by the wizard Shazam and 6 gods, he is actually powered by the wizard Merlin of King Arthur legend, with the goal to hunt down Morgana Le Fay, because of course it's Stan Lee. Oh, also, it's worth mentioning that instead of turning into a handsome black-haired hunk, when Rogers yells Shazam, he turns into a big, pink demon that gets a magical power boost, demon wings, super strength and durability, and a lovely little bone necklace. Excelsior! Number 6, Captain Thunder. This is kind of confusing because there are so many versions of Shazam who use Captain Thunder as their name. Basically, Captain Thunder that I'm talking about was William Fawcett, a kid who was given powers similar to Captain Marvel. He received his powers when the shaman Maroki gifted William a belt with a thunderbolt symbol that, when rubbed in combo with the magical word thunder, turns him into Captain Thunder. Unfortunately, after fighting the Monster League of Evil, they gave him an evil persona instead of a heroic one. So, when Captain Thunder first appeared in Superman 276 in 1974, he was helping robbers instead of fighting them. It's only after Superman urges Thunder to use his wisdom to fix what happened and to make it back to his own Earth. There was a much cooler version of Captain Thunder in the Flashpoint timeline with a sweet battle tiger, who is who you'd probably think of when I say Captain Thunder, but I don't want to talk about him, so so meh. Number 5, Kingdom Come Shazam. In an alternate possible future, metahumans or superheroes are now hated. Because of this, Billy Batson hasn't become Shazam in years and is now full grown, looking a lot like his alter ego, minus the cool costume and cape and powers and stuff. He was eventually brainwashed by Lex Luthor into believing that metahumans and even the Captain Marvel inside of him are all monsters. In time, Bruce Wayne tries to convince Billy otherwise, which eventually forces him to turn into Shazam once more, breaking open the metahuman prison and starting a massive war that puts the world at risk. After a nuclear device was dropped threatening to kill thousands, Superman convinced Billy to help, and Shazam outraced Superman to the bomb, using his lightning to destroy it, sacrificing himself to save both humans and metahumans, ending the hatred against superheroes once and for all. Good job. Number 4, Earth 5 Shazam. Earth 5, or Earth S if you prefer, is a simpler, kinder world. A world that is more optimistic, a world where the heroes are seen as such with hardly any faults. Basically, this is the golden age of comics, specifically Fawcett Comics, where Captain Marvel is the main superhero, which gives the world the name Thunderworld. He and his family, Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel, keep the world safe from everything from the Monster Society to aliens. I'm talking like Shazam is essentially taking the place of Superman as the premier superhero of the Earth. This version of Shazam worked together alongside Superman and Overman of other universes to recruit the Supermen of the universe. They all worked together, led by Captain Marvel, to defeat Ultraman and weaken Mandrake, who was killed by the Green Lanterns. Yeah. Number 3, Shazam Who Laughs. After the Batman Who Laughs infects Shazam / Billy Batson with a dark metal virus, turning him into a Joker-like version of himself, he is tasked with infecting Superman with the same Joker dark metal virus. Shazam goes to the Batcave and waits for Superman to show up so he can attack, and Joker Shazam is easily a match for Superman and Batman one-on-one. But with the two teaming up, he's a little overwhelmed and retreats, which is odd because going by King Shazam, he takes on the Titan Atlas trying to test his new abilities and even defeats multiple gods. When he is in a fight with Ares, he even defeats and infects Lady Shazam, so it doesn't really check that Batman and Superman give him that much trouble, but whatever, that's how comics go because Batman and Superman are Batman and Superman. Luckily, he is cured thanks to Lex Luthor cutting off the source of the dark metal, but this guy was nuts and showed no signs of stopping, and that smile? It's creepy. It's just creepy. Don't like it. Number 2, Mazaz. When we first ever meet Mazaz, he is described as the most powerful superhero on Earth 3, the home of the sinister JLA, the Crime Syndicate of America. He was for a long time the biggest threat that the Crime Syndicate of America ever faced, and he has taken the lives of a lot of the CSA's members, using his superpowers. So what are those superpowers? Alexander was just a regular guy, as much as a Luthor can be, until at some point in his life, he figured out how to take the powers of superpowered beings. It seems that the first person who lost their power and their life to Alexander was Will Batson, Earth 3's Billy Batson, which gave Alexander the powers of Mazaz, which is Shazam backwards. Those powers are to call down dark lightning, transforming him into a more masculine being with superhuman strength, durability, flight, electrokinesis, and presumably magic. When he first shows up, he has already stolen the powers of a hero called Hawkwing, who we don't actually know, but he also goes on to take all the Kryptonian-like powers of Bizarro, plus kryptonite immunity, the Firestorm Matrix powers of Deathstorm, Earth 3's Firestorm, the super speed abilities of Johnny Quick, and way more. While the characters he fought were arguably worse than him in terms of their morality, no one from Earth 3 is really good, and he is absolutely terrifying. And finally, in at number 1, it's the God of Gods Shazam. The God of Gods was a side story from Darkseid War centered on the hero Shazam, and sees him gain 6 new gods in place of the original. After the Anti-Monitor killed Darkseid by fusing the Black Racer with the Anti-Life, Darkseid's death caused Shazam's connection to the Olympian gods to disconnect. Shazam's old gods were replaced by new gods, and the new gods included Anapel, the goddess of rebirth, Siva, the god of destruction and strength, Ate, the goddess of impulse, Hronmir, the Martian god of death, Memorgan the wizard, and Zanzu/Yuga Khan, the father of Darkseid. Shazam gaining these new gods' powers makes him incredibly powerful. Yuga Khan said that Shazam can put a hole in the source wall by being empowered by the other 5 gods with the lightning rod, which is incredibly powerful if you don't know. So, long story short, the God of Gods was an incredibly amped up version of Billy Batson's Shazam.
In at number 10, The Flash. Let's get this out of the way straight off the top. The entire Justice League minus Batman is way too overpowered and they need to be stopped. Having the Flash in your team is the shining example of what an overpowered hero looks like. He can run faster than the speed of light and as a result is known as the fastest man alive. This simple overpowered ability is the focus because it allows for the Flash to do ridiculous things. He can run through walls, run up buildings, and even throw a punch at a super speed. Although it's not his combat that should be troubling for us normies, it's the fact that he can move so fast that he can travel through time. We all know that time travel in any sense has never turned out to have all positive results. The negative effects have even been felt after the Flash did this in the comic books, and I'm sure we wouldn't want that to be our reality. In at number 9, Green Lantern. Much like the Hulk, Hal Jordan actually becomes stronger from fighting with his enemies. Typically the Green Ring will drain its user's willpower, but Hal seems unaffected by this. Even if he's becoming overwhelmed by an opponent, he can easily defeat them with surges of his undefeatable will. On top of all that, the Green Ring allows for him to create anything from his thoughts into actual physical objects. For the most part, the Green Lantern's power is reserved for defending the universe, but even so, it's far too much power for a human like Hal to take on. Thankfully, if things did go sideways and we really wanted to stop him, all it would take is the color yellow. We know it sounds crazy, but that is actually the Green Lantern's weakness, so make sure you keep a stockpile of bananas real close.
Number 8, Becca from Gods and Monsters. Becca may just be the strongest of the Wonder Women who have shown up today, and that's because she's different from them all. She isn't even an Amazon. Becca, who is Wonder Woman in the animated Gods and Monsters, is actually a new god. She was exiled from New Genesis following her marriage to Darkseid's son, Orion, a wedding that was interrupted by her family, who used the momentary peace between New Genesis and Apocalypse to launch a sneak attack. When she came to Earth, she became Wonder Woman alongside a vampire Batman and a Superman who was actually the son of General Zod. As a new god, she does have similar abilities to Wonder Woman, only they should be far superior. She wields immortality, super strength and durability, flight, super healing, and self-sustenance, but more literally, she also wields a golden lasso, New Genesis armor, and a sword given to her by Orion that was crafted by the greatest smiths on Apocalypse and is basically indestructible. Certainly a powerful version of Wonder Woman. Number 7, Superwoman from Earth 3. While Superwoman is an alternate version of Wonder Woman, originally she was actually the Lois Lane from Earth 3, who on this world seems to have similar powers to a Kryptonian, but she was indeed an Amazon, wielding the lasso of submission instead of truth, which was capable of forcing others to do her bidding and forcing them to love her. She was capable of not only everything Wonder Woman could do, but she could fire beams of red hot energy from her eyes, and she could fly, which I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman can do most of the time. She created an incredibly toxic love triangle between Ultraman, which is Superman in this world, and Owlman, which is Batman in this world, of the Crime Syndicate of America, even having a child with Owlman, but promising to Ultraman that it was his, but it was actually some other guy's baby, and it's just this big whole thing, and woo! Don't want to talk about it anymore. Number 6, Donna Troy of Earth 3. Just as Donna Troy became the new Wonder Woman in the legit continuity, on Earth 3 she would also become the new Superwoman. But unlike the previous Superwoman, who seemed to have the same abilities as a Kryptonian, Donna Troy was a bona fide Amazon from Demon Island. As the Queen's daughter, Donna was trained harder and pushed farther than any other person on the island. She was expected to become stronger than any other, and when she met Steve Trevor and fell in love, it was her test of strength to go against that love and snap him like a dry twig. Now, having proven herself worthy in her mother's eyes, she set off into the world and forced her way into the crime syndicate of America as the new Superwoman, wielding the lasso of submission. Now, Donna's whole life goal is to truly make her mother proud by eventually returning to Demon Island, slaying her, and taking the throne for herself. Goals? Number 5. Aurora of Themyscira. Comics seem to continuously supply us with things we never thought we needed. In a moment not likely to happen again in the near future, the House of DC and the House of Marvel were friends. They could talk, they could play nice, and to prove that, one of the most beloved moments came in the mid-1990s when these two companies joined forces for a crossover. This took place in the amalgamated world of Earth 9602. On this Earth, it was not Diana Prince who became Wonder Woman. Instead, a meta-mutant child by the name of Aurora was rescued and raised as a princess of the Amazons by Queen Hippolyta, alongside Diana Prince. The two fought alongside each other as they grew up, but when the time came to choose who would be Wonder Woman, Aurora's natural ability to control and harness the forces of the weather, plus her Amazonian training, allowed her to secure the victory. She went off to become one hell of a hero when she finally left the island to enter man's world. It's such an interesting and surprising mashup of characters, but when you properly think about it, it really does make a whole lot of sense that Storm and Wonder Woman could be the same person. Number 4. Injustice Wonder Woman. When you've got to sell a video game, you make your characters badass. And when that game is taking the heroes and villains of the DC Comics universe and mixing it with Mortal Kombat, that's just a recipe for some unstoppable forces. The Wonder Woman from the Injustice series is that unstoppable force. Injustice is essentially Superman losing his family and then deciding that he and other super beings should rule the Earth. His number one go-to person is Diana, and she's basically even worse than he is. Many people have argued that Wonder Woman was the real antagonist of the story. She caused the passing of Captain Atom, one of the best hopes against Superman. She takes the life of Huntress for insulting Superman, is the accomplice in the passing of Martian Manhunter and this low-level guy called Galaxor. She turns Harley Quinn into a shish kebab. She had taken the place of Lois Lane as Superman's lover, turned the other Amazons to Superman's cause, and the whole time she was doing that, she was whispering in Superman's ear, pushing him to go even farther and farther down the path of villainy. Number 3. Dead Earth. Now, I'm not sure what the general consensus on this comic book is, and quite frankly, I don't care because I think this version of Diana of Themyscira is just absolutely insanely dope. The comic picks up in an apocalyptic wasteland in what used to be Gotham. Deep down in the remnants of the Batcave, Wonder Woman had been kept alive in a containment unit and was awoken by a group of humans who were running from a mutated monster known as a Hydra. After saving the Humies and liberating their city, she journeys to Themyscira only to find out that the Hydra are actually her fellow Amazons mutated by atomic radiation after the Amazons had decided to go to war with the rest of humanity who had driven the Earth to its breaking point. The human world had bombarded Themyscira with nuclear fire, even though Diana used the absolute limits of her abilities to stop it. When Superman, who fought for humanity, turned up to try and explain why he couldn't have helped her, we just see how powerful this Wonder Woman is. Losing complete control of herself, Wonder Woman and Superman fought each other to the point of causing a great fire that plunged the world into the apocalypse, and at the end of that fight, Wonder Woman, who was double fisting some kryptonite, brought Superman to his final rest with a hole straight through his chest. She collapsed from the exhaustion, and when she learned of his past, Wonder Woman decided to set things right and protected what was left of humanity from what she once called her sisters. And in at number 2 is Brunhild. Earth 10 is a universe where things happen just a little differently in terms of our world history. Mainly, I'm talking about who came out on top at the end of World War II. Instead of what really happened, the Axis powers came out on top here, turning Germany and their symbol-wielding fascist party into the world's next superpower. But the only reason they achieved this was because they had actual superpowers on their side. The Justice League Axis, which eventually became the new Reichsman. For this alternate Wonder Woman, we actually have 2 different women, both going by the name Brunhild. The first being red-headed and the second being blonde-haired and blue-eyed. No surprise there, but both being extremely capable female warriors with seemingly no weaknesses. She seems to take inspiration from Norse mythology, and for me to back that up, there is indeed a Prime Earth Brunhild who is the leader of the Valkyries. What's interesting is that in the Golden Age, the Valkyries were enemies to Wonder Woman, but on the Prime Earth, it's actually become canon that Valkyries and Amazons are part of the same race. As such, Brunhilde does have all the same attributes as Wonder Woman, which was probably a big help in taking over the world. And finally, in at number 1 is Nubia. Nubia isn't really an alternate version of Wonder Woman. She's pretty much her own character, and she is in fact the sister of Diana. Nubia came to be in the exact same way as Diana, but where Diana was molded from white clay, Nubia was molded from black clay, and stolen away by the god of war, Ares, or if you prefer, Mars. Nubia was charged by the Greek gods with defending the entrance to the river Styx and the gates of Tartarus, and that on its own should tell you how capable this Amazon really is. Her powers appear to be exactly the same as Diana, and on Earth 23, Nubia actually is Wonder Woman, but seems to be even more powerful with complete access to her world's technology and mystical devices, suggesting her position may be more like Queen Hippolyta rather than Diana. And that's probably the case, because on Prime Earth, Nubia became the new and current Queen of Themyscira, and eventually the Queen of all Amazons. She's so cool and definitely my favorite of all those to have been Wonder Woman. Coming in at number 10 is Kang the Conqueror. Kang is a little bit of an interesting pick for this list, as he totally can be stopped and has been multiple times. Thanks to the advanced time period he comes from though, Nathaniel Richards has an increased lifespan, making him look 40 when he's actually 7 years old. That's fine, that doesn't make him unstoppable. What makes him unstoppable is a couple of things. For starters, as most people know, Kang has a huge relationship with time. A version of this guy exists at almost all moments of the time stream, and not just one version of him, as there have been Kangs from different universes that have shown up as well. So not only can Nathaniel Richards show up at any point in the time stream in any of his numerous identities that all have their own long history, but his alternate universe versions are almost always set to make an appearance in his place. And then, on top of that, until recently, Nathaniel had the ability to transfer his consciousness to another body when he passed away. Nathaniel, Rama Tut, Iron Lad, Kid Immortus, Scarlet Centurion, Immortus himself, Mr. Griffin, He Who Remains, whatever you want to call him, Kang the Conqueror is pretty much unstoppable. Number 9. Galactus. The being formerly known as Galen of the planet Ta lived before the modern cosmos in the previous cosmos. Galen gestated with the sentience of the universe for billions of years, transforming into the devourer of worlds, finding sustenance by ingesting entire planets, preferably those with living sentient beings that have much more energy for him to harness. Now when Galactus destroys and consumes a planet, he is sort of bringing balance to the universe, kind of like how life is given and taken away every day on Earth, which makes him an essential part of the universe. He's known for the destruction of the Skrull Empire and has attempted to devour the Earth so many freaking times, and I guess other planets for that matter too, or whatever. Galactus is also famous for his heralds such as Silver Surfer and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and so many others, and while they are all powerful beings themselves, usually even before they gain the herald power boost, they don't hold a candle to Galactus himself. His only caveat is that Galactus's power depends on his planet's consumption, so a weakened Galactus has been taken out before, but if he eats like 4 or more planets or something, he's been able to defeat multiple mad celestials all by himself. He's powered by food, and I think pretty much all of us can understand that. Coming in at number 8, Abraxas. Abraxas is the polar opposite of the cosmic entity Eternity. So, being the opposite of Eternity, his whole reason for existing is to destroy all of the multiverse, which, I'll be honest, there are a few different characters in Marvel who exist for that reason, and funnily enough, a bunch of them are on this list. Abraxas is tied to Galactus too, because when Galactus would consume a planet, it would keep Abraxas in check. So, when Galactus is taken off the board in Galactus the Devourer, Abraxas is released and begins his path of ultimate destruction. As a cosmic entity, Abraxas' powers are essentially limitless, and his whole existence is kind of important to the universe, which means he can't really be taken out like a normal villain. So, how the heck do the heroes come out on top against this guy? Well, in Fantastic Four, 4, number 48 to 50, we learned of an incredibly powerful weapon called the Ultimate Nullifier. It was used back then to threaten Galactus and stop him from destroying our Earth. Now the heroes, specifically Reed Richards, ended up using the Ultimate Nullifier to essentially rewrite reality, destroying reality and remaking it so that Abraxas just never existed. That's the route we had to go to here. Kinda makes you wonder why Marvel would even write such a powerful villain in the first place, but
Number 7. Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister isn't just one man, he can literally be an army of clones. What is more unstoppable than that? Well, not much. Especially when you consider just how brilliant and deadly he and each of his clones can be, with their immense knowledge of mutant DNA and twisted approach to evolution. Mr. Sinister isn't just one of my favorite mutants because of his fabulous look, although that definitely only makes me love him more, to be honest. It's because he's always up to something, always scheming and planning and hiding in the shadows. And when Sinister schemes, it can be dangerous, like to the point that he can take over the whole world by manipulating and tailoring the timeline to his liking. That kind of dangerous. See Sins of Sinister for more on what I'm talking about there. Number 6. Exodus. We don't talk about Exodus enough. As you know, I'm a big fan of psionic powers outside of, I would say, super speed and teleportation. I think this might actually be like my favorite power set, and definitely is one of the power sets I consider to be the most powerful. Why do I love it so? Why do I consider it to be so powerful? Because it allows you to defeat someone without ever having to really lift a finger. In the physical world anyways. Exodus might not be as well known as some of the others on this list, but trust me when I say he is one of the most powerful telepaths and telekinetics out there. We have seen him prove himself in psionic battles against ancient eternal creatures that were in essence kind of like dragons. In fact, I believe he even literally fought a dragon as well at one point. Exodus not only has his mutant powers, which were at an insane level already when they first manifested, but he also had them enhanced by Apocalypse, making him even more powerful. In fact, he is considered to be one of the most powerful mutants in existence. If that doesn't make him unstoppable, I do not know what would. Number 5. Cassandra Nova. I mean, Cassandra Nova is seriously just crazy. I love her, and I also kind of love to hate her. I mean, that's the beauty of Cassandra Nova. Technically, she is not quite a mutant. Instead, she is a Mummudrai, which is basically like an evil twin that you have to defeat to be born, at least according to the Shi'ar. In Cassandra's case, she is the evil twin of Charles Xavier, whose powers first manifested in the womb before he was born, so that he might stop Cassandra, who attacked him at that time. As a result, Cassandra was defeated and Charles lived on, being born into the world. However, even then, this wouldn't be the end for Cassandra. She actually survived as basically a collection of cells that look like goo, and she managed to once again manifest, returning even stronger than she was before. And yeah, like I said, she's a Mummudrai, but she's also like a Mummudrai of Charles, so that kind of makes her a mutant, and right now, or at least recently, last time I was reading Marauders, she was fighting for the mutants because she kind of allied herself. She kind of saw herself as one. So I mean, yeah, it kind of depends on the story, but I think we can consider her a mutant. Number 4. Jean Grey. Jean Grey was once the Phoenix Force, but even without the Phoenix Force, she is a powerhouse. In fact, at one point, Jean even stated the Phoenix Force was, get this, actually holding her back. What? Even without her connection to the Phoenix, even when she is not a host, Jean has proven herself as one of the most unstoppable mutants out there. She has gone toe to toe with gods and not only survived, but also won. Jean Grey is also one of the most unstoppable in the sense that she doesn't even really need to mess you up to win a fight with you. And I think that is a really impressive strength. Or rather, I guess I should say, she really only needs to mess you up mentally maybe, but then, even then, not in a way that leaves you like catatonic or anything like that. She isn't Xavier. She won't necessarily just like wipe your mind or anything like that. She doesn't need to. Instead, she'll give you an entirely new perspective that will make you change your own mind. Number 3. Magneto. While Magneto was stopped a while ago with him seemingly being killed during the long and epic fight that he had against Uranos, Magneto still wasn't even really stopped there. Now, allow me to explain. I know that's a contradiction. Minus everything that may or may not be going with him potentially returning from the dead in Scarlet Witch's comic, unless that's Joseph, his younger clone, and it could be. I'm not up to date on Scarlet Witch, so if there's some things that have come up in the last couple issues, don't spoil it for me in the comments. Magneto actually never died in his first battle with Uranos, despite literally having his heart removed. Magneto willed his blood to keep like pumping through his body, using the iron in his blood to help control and move it through him, with his mutant powers going into overdrive to act as a temporary replacement for his heart during the AXE or the Axe event when he was essentially trapped on planet Arakko, aka Mars, as he also fought to defend it. And even during his rematch with Uranos, he really only went out because he chose to go. Sounds pretty unstoppable to me, I'm just saying. Number 2. Storm. Storm is one of the best, more badass characters that we have around. She is unstoppable on, honestly, a lot of different fronts. Not just because of her mutant powers to control the weather and manipulate the atmosphere around her, sometimes even the world over. Not just because of her insane fighting skills and physical prowess, and not even just because Storm is a goddess. And honestly, not even just because Storm is also an amazing leader, she's also that too. A lot of the time for me, it's Storm's spirit and her determination that just makes her the most unstoppable. She does not give up, even when it seems like defeat is basically inevitable. Storm makes her own path and does not let others define her, and that is both what I admire the most about her and what I think makes her often such a force to be reckoned with. Willful, strong, and undefeatable. Storm knows who she is and she isn't afraid to show it, and I love that about her. That's being unstoppable right there. Knowing who you are and being like, this is who I am, that's it. Take it or leave it. But you gotta take it because I'm unstoppable. Number 1. Apocalypse. Apocalypse is definitely one of the most unstoppable mutants around. He is one of, if not the, most deadly mutant that we have, I would say. There's a whole alternate reality where Apocalypse has successfully conquered the world, and there have been a few times where he's also come close to doing that in the main continuity. That's why I personally was both so amazed and so surprised, kinda scared, when I saw Apocalypse join the mutant nation of Krakoa. Initially my thoughts were, when is he gonna betray them, because that's gonna happen. But over time I came to understand that Apocalypse being so unstoppable didn't always have to be a bad thing, as he is also allied literally with all the mutants. He could actually be a force for good in that way, because if there's anything that Apocalypse does believe in, he believes in mutants, and so it kind of worked really perfectly that he'd work with them. Ultimately though, Apocalypse wants mutants to be at their best and to be on top. So as soon as there is a disparity between what he wants for mutant kind and what the people and other leaders of Krakoa want, he's probably gonna go back to being unstoppable in a more villainous way. Number 10. Iron Man. I mean, Tony is just a man, but he is still a very determined man, and he's willing to put everything on the line when it comes to saving the day or fighting for what he believes in. A few examples of this can be seen from both the comics and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Iron Man ends up being the one to wear the Infinity Gauntlet, snapping to defeat Thanos as the heroes make their final stand. He knows he won't survive this, but it's up to him in the end to save the day, and he's willing to give his life to stop Thanos and prevent him from once more erasing 50% of the universe's population with a snap. During Civil War in the comics, Iron Man also exhibits how committed he can be to a cause, when he believes the best way to prevent civilian casualties is by basically reining in superheroes, having them register and in essence work for the government. His beliefs are so strong that while other heroes disagree with his methods, he is willing to go to war over it, starting the first civil war against the superheroes that disagree, who are led by a man who believes in freedom among all else and knows all too well what it's like to be a government pawn. Captain America's Steven Rogers. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we're doing here at Top 10 Nerd and you need more Marvel content in your life, be sure to check out our Top 10 Marvel playlist for that. Number 9. Doctor Strange. Even when Doctor Strange died, he didn't let that defeat him. In Death of Doctor Strange, Strange comes back to investigate his own death and solve his own murder. Well, a version of him does anyways. And the amazing thing is that he also seems to have left clues for his alternate self to solve the murder. In the end, when Clea attempts to call him back before accepting the role of Sorcerer Supreme as Doctor Strange's wife, Strange, however, says he cannot return because he knows what it will cost, and that it breaks basically laws of magic. Despite the fact that Strange is a hero who gets things done, he has also learned how to be unstoppably loyal to the rules of magic. This is probably because he is known to have broken these rules on a few occasions to varying degrees of success, I'd say. Sometimes it works, other times doing so only creates more problems, as we also see in Doctor Strange's journey in regards to his MCU stories and counterparts. In the MCU, Strange was willing to break some rules to help Peter get into school by making the world forget that he was actually Spider-Man. But due to Peter's constant add-ons in regards to who was actually allowed to remember, Strange lost control of that spell, splitting a crack in the multiverse. But alternatively, when facing off against the Scarlet Witch, he did allow himself to use an alternate copy of the Darkhold to dreamwalk in his own alternate universe's corpse, breaking several rules in order to defeat Wanda. Then again, he probably knew, like, this is like, I gotta break some rules here. I'm hoping it'll all work out in the end. I mean, I think Strange knew, like, I could do this and it'll be worth it. Number 8. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers' whole motto is basically about being unstoppable. Higher, further, faster, baby. Well, it's about being unstoppable and of course, flying. Carol loves to fly. Even when an alternate version of her shows up on God Emperor Doom's battle world during Secret Wars, where she is given a life that she should seemingly love, this version of Carol becomes suspicious of Doom and ends up rebelling, questioning if what he tells her about the sky is actually true. This lines up perfectly with the type of hero Carol is in the main reality as well. During Secret Wars, the Captain Marvel of Earth 616 was one of the heroes on the Life Raft who had been preserved to the end of the multiverse and rebelled as well against Doom to try and reset the multiverse back to normal. Which happens after Reed gets control of the Beyonders' powers, winning them back in a battle against Doom and using them along with the help from his family to rebuild the Marvel multiverse. Aside from that, Carol in the main continuity has also lost her memories multiple times and even died and been resurrected, and she hasn't ever let any of that stop her from doing what needs to be done in terms of heroics. Captain Marvel also happens to be one of the most powerful superheroes out there in Marvel Comics. She's got a ton of combat experience, military experience, pilot experience, and can survive in the vacuum of space.
At number 7 is Thanos. When we talk about Avengers villains who are a tough nut to crack, Thanos inevitably leaps into the picture. I mean, we're not just dealing with your everyday antagonist here, we're talking about the Mad Titan himself. Thanos is like the ultimate cosmic conundrum, most notably wielding the Infinity Gauntlet and its mind-bending gems. With that kind of power, he can reshape reality, control time, and alter the very fabric of existence. The Avengers had their hands filled dealing with this purple-skinned powerhouse. Remember that snap? The one that wiped out, like, I don't know, half of all life in the universe? Yeah, that was this guy. So taking on Thanos is like confronting the embodiment of unstoppable force. When he's on the scene, you can bet that things are gonna get cosmically complicated. At number 6 is Doctor Doom. Peering into the vast realm of the Avengers villains, one figure emerges with an aura of unyielding power, Doctor Doom. Hailing from the enigmatic land of Latveria, Doctor Doom is a multifaceted antagonist whose mastery in both science and sorcery is unparalleled. Clad in signature metal armor, Doom's intellect fuels his pursuits of dominion, rendering him a formidable adversary. His indomitable will, fortified by tragic origins, propels him in his quest for ultimate control. From reshaping reality to the Infinity Gauntlet to manipulating time itself, Doom's ambitions knows no bounds. A complex amalgamation of genius, magic, and ambition, Doctor Doom stands as the enduring testament to the unexplored depths of villainy within the Avengers universe. At number 5 is Galactus. Galactus is a colossal cosmic entity in the Marvel universe, emerging as the embodiment of cosmic balance. This being, beyond the constraints of good or evil as we perceive them, stands as a force of nature, a devourer of worlds. Dressed in his signature colossal purple and blue armor, he's a figure that transcends conventional hero-villain narratives. Galactus doesn't scheme like Loki or seek power like Thanos, he merely exists to sustain his own existence by consuming planets. With an insatiable hunger, he wields the power cosmic, allowing control over reality itself. The Avengers, despite their tenacity, often find themselves helpless against this force. They face cosmic threats, but Galactus remains unparalleled. His very existence challenges our anthropocentric perspective, underscoring the universe's grandiosity and our limited understanding within it. At number 4 is Molecule Man. Owen Reese, a character who truly bends your mind quite literally. Imagine having the power to control, well, molecules. Everything around us, matter itself, is made up of these tiny things, and Molecules Man's ability allows him to reshape reality on a fundamental level. He can disintegrate, reshape, or recreate matter with just a thought. But here's the kicker, his power isn't just limited to objects. He can alter time itself, space, I didn't know those were made of molecules, and even other superpowers. Now you might be thinking, how on earth could anyone stop someone who could manipulate reality at its core? Well, it's a mind-boggling concept and definitely one that the Avengers are gonna have to figure out a way around. At number 3 is Red Skull. This formidable antagonist possesses an indomitable will that echoes throughout history. Initially locking horns with Captain America during the Second War of the World, Red Skull's obsession with power and ominous association with Hydra paint a portrait of unwavering unwavering malevolence. But what makes Red Skull truly intriguing is his resilience. Over the years, he's demonstrated an uncanny ability to rebound from apparent defeat, like a persistent specter haunting the Marvel Universe. His consciousness survived, transcending mortality, finding new vessels to embody his wickedness. From Johann Schmidt to various successors, the essence of Red Skull endures, emphasizing the notion that some adversaries are simply impervious to the confines of time and defeat. At number 2 is Magneto. With the ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields, his power transcends the conventional. But it's not just his raw might that sets him apart, it's his motivation. Crafted through tragic experiences, Magneto's actions are propelled by a deep-seated desire to protect mutant kind from the looming shadow of human oppression. His conviction blurs the line between villainy and an almost understandable quest for survival. So can Magneto truly be stopped? It's a paradoxical question, for while his actions are perceived as antagonistic, they stem from a place of harrowing resonance. Perhaps understanding his origin is the key to predicting his next move, and in a realm where right and wrong often collide, Magneto's indomitable spirit continues to both confound and compel. And at number 1 is Morgan Le Fay. Hailing from Arthurian legends and weaving her way into Marvel Comics, she's a force to be reckoned with. What sets her apart? It's not just her mastery over ancient magic, but her time-traveling escapades that truly bend the mind. Imagine a villain who's been a thorn in the Avengers' side across centuries. With a knack for manipulating reality, controlling minds, and wielding dark spells, Morgan Le Fay is a puzzle the team can't quite solve. But what's truly baffling is her immortality. How does one truly stop someone who's danced through time, cheating its very flow? And as the Avengers continue to battle this enigmatic enchantress, it's a reminder that some foes are beyond the grasp of conventional heroics, slipping through time's fingers like sand.
Number 10. Sue Storm and Black Panther. So Black Panther was actually introduced in a Fantastic Four comic, Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966. He's the first African superhero in American comics. So that actress who was Storm and was all like, Storm was here first. Nah fam. Bow to the king. So when Black Panther first met Sue, the sparks flew. She was bathing in the river, which comics and media always like to pretend you can just do without, horrible parasites or fish touching you. And he sees her and is like, noise. And so he gets into the water too, and she's all, Black Panther, hey. And he's like, the invisible woman, Sue Richards. And she's all, cats don't like water. And he's like, but I'm no ordinary cat. And you are no ordinary woman. She's all, thanks. I'm glad someone noticed. Read. And then he asks her, are you married? Because the way you were looking at me, I thought that perhaps. This goes nowhere because it's the 60s and also cheating. But come on now, think about it. Also, this is what I wanted to ask you. Couples that nearly happened, or hookups that nearly happened, because I have tons of these. My mind is a Rolodex of useless hookup knowledge. Let me share this whole new world with you. Please. Number 9. Wally West and Donna Troy from Rebirth. So in the New Teen Titans in the 80s, Donna and Wally were friends. He was carrying a really big torch for Raven, and he also ended up recreating Donna from his memories after she was erased from existence in the 90s. It was weird. But in Rebirth, after the return of Wally, him and Donna, well, they started to feel differently about each other. And well, there was a bit of a love triangle between Wally, Donna, and Roy. Yeah, Roy. Roy wanted some of that Donna action. But when he showed up to confess to her, he was too late. Her and Wally had had a heart-to-heart and were kissing, nay, sucking face. So he sadly goes to stand in the hallway and he's all like, too slow, Harper, too slow. Was that a flash joke? Probably not. This pairing was cute, but I'm not over the erasure of Wally's wife and kids. Kids who were also superheroes, by the way. But heroes aren't allowed to have happy families, so says Dan Didio. I like to think that Donna saw Roy's backwards hat and was like, that's gonna be a no from me. Number 8. Carol Danvers and Tony Stark from 1610, the Ultimate Verse. Let's go to the Ultimate Verse early in this list, get it out of the way, and show you a world where Tony Stark and Carol Danvers did hook up. In main verse, these two were friends, and Tony would end up helping Carol when she turned to alcohol to try to deal with all of the stuff that had happened to her, all that messed up stuff post-Rogue. Later, she would beat him into a coma for having a different perspective than her, and then the comics would break their spine and yours to make you forget that happened, by giving Carol another origin and Minnie, one where Tony was so supportive he called her Care Bear, and was like, it's all good, take as much time off the Avengers as you need, Care Bear. Care Bear stare. Anyway, in the Ultimate Verse, hot and steamy. They were equals too, kinda into it, but the rest of the Ultimate Verse is such a mess. It won't let us have nice things, except for Miles.
At number 7 is Luke Cage, a man who transformed from a life of crime into the embodiment of invulnerability and strength. Luke's journey is one that showcases the epitome of transformation from criminal to protector, and even the mayor of the Big Apple. He's like a modern day Hercules, but without the whole mythology thing. The secret sauce here is the bursting process, a super soldier experiment that's like the ultimate makeover, but for your cellular regeneration rate. This process gifted Luke with an ungodly amount of strength, akin to lifting 50 tons. This strength isn't just for show. Thunderclaps? Check. Leaping long distances? Check. Pulling an airplane's brakes like it's a kid's toy? Absolutely check. But the real kicker is his nigh invulnerability, having skin, muscles, and bone tissue tougher than titanium steel. He can also take hits from heavy hitters, surviving smacks from folks that make him look like an underdog. And let's not forget his favorite pastime, surviving falls from skyscrapers like it's just another walk in the park. At number 6 is Black Panther. First of all, let's talk about that suit. Made from vibranium, the strongest metal in the Marvel universe. It also absorbs kinetic energy, making it practically indestructible. But it's not just the suit that makes T'Challa unstoppable. He's got the agility of a panther, the strength of a vibranium enhanced human, and combat skills that could give even the most skilled martial artists a run for their money. And don't forget about the intellect. The guy's a genius, ruling over Wakanda, a technological wonderland hidden in plain sight. Vibranium powered tech, healing herbs, you name it, Black Panther's got it all. But it's more than just the gadgets, intellect, and cool moves. T'Challa's got heart, a dedication to his people, and a commitment to justice. He's not just a superhero, he's a king, a symbol, and a reminder that anyone can be a hero no matter the circumstance. At number 5 is Iron Man. Now when it comes to the Avengers, we're talking about a roster filled with some seriously impressive individuals, but among them, there's one iconic figure who stands out. Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. So what makes Iron Man so special? Well, for starters, it's that suit of his. The Mark 20 million, or whatever snazzy number he's up to by now, is a true marvel of engineering. We're talking about a suit that's equipped with all sorts of advanced tech, from repulsor beams that can blast through just about anything, to an array of specialized gadgets that could give James Bond a run for his money. And let's not forget about his nanotech, allowing the suit to form around him at a moment's notice. But it's not just about the suit, it's also about the man inside it, Tony Stark, a brilliant inventor, billionaire, and philanthropist. Now what sets Tony apart isn't just his genius intellect or his snarky one-liners, it's his indomitable spirit. The guy's faced some serious challenges both in and out of the suit, from dealing with his own personal demons to going toe-to-toe with cosmic threats. He's shown time and time again that he's not one to back down. At number 4 is Thor. When the talk shifts to Avengers level threats, one question naturally arises. Can Thor single-handedly vanquish any challenge that befalls Earth? Well, let's find out. Marvel's tapestry of storylines weaves together captivating narratives, and sometimes even Thor needs a breather from Midgard's constant mayhem. Take the Civil War saga for instance. While the epic clash between heroes raged on Earth, Thor was knee-deep in his own Asgardian apocalypse, Ragnarok, making his conspicuous absence a necessity to let the drama unfold. Thor's lineage also reads like a divine who's who, with Odin and Gaia as his progenitors. And let's not forget the boost his dear mother Gaia gave him, elevating his Asgardian powers into uncharted territories. We're talking about the god of strength and thunder here, being capable of locking horns or hammers with cosmic juggernauts. The roster of opponents who felt the force of Mjolnir's might is as extensive as it is impressive. Midgard Serpent, the Hulk, the Silver Surfer, Gladiator, and even the legendary Hercules have all danced the battle and waltzed with Thor. His endurance seems bottomless, a wellspring of stamina that keeps him going even when the odds stay high and nigh. But even stripped of Mjolnir, when he's just Thor Odin's son, the guy's like a one-man storm. Recent chapters in his comic chronicle have seen him ascend further, Rune King Thor, All-Father Thor, and even donning the mantle of Cosmic Herald for Galactus. It's almost as if Thor keeps snacking power-ups from the cosmic clearance rack. At number 3 is Captain America. Let's talk about a hero who isn't necessarily firing energy beams from their fingertips or manipulating reality itself. It's none other than Captain America, but before we start sizing up his biceps against the lights of cosmic gods and reality-bending mutants, hear me out. Sure, when you think of the Avengers, you might picture Thor summoning thunderstorms or Iron Man donning his high-tech suits, but let's not underestimate the man who wields the vibranium shield with finesse and determination. Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, isn't on top of the power charts, but it's not about the flashy superpowers that make him shine. It's about his unyielding willpower. You see, Steve is the kind of guy who doesn't know the meaning of backing down. He's like the poster child for unwavering resolve, the guy who will take on cosmic threats armed with nothing more than his conviction. See, it's not about the size of the hammer, but the strength behind the swing. And Steve's swing is fueled by his deep belief in what he fights for. At number 2 is Spider-Man. Just like Captain America, Spider-Man wields a power that transcends comic book pages. It's like the literal god tier of popularity. I mean, seriously, Spider-Man is practically the poster child of Marvel Comics. Now sure, he's been knocked down a few times, but the likelihood of him being permanently knocked knocked down and out, about as low as finding someone who doesn't enjoy pizza. At number 1 is the Hulk. It's almost a requirement that the Hulk makes an appearance on this list. The gamma-powered green Goliath has been a force to be reckoned with ever since his debut. Known for his strength, not just your average weightlifting prowess, this guy's strength is set in stone, tied to his anger, which is a bit concerning when you think about it. Hulk's power grows alongside his fury, and it's like he's got an anger management issue with cosmic consequences. He's gone from smashing puny humans to planets, galaxies, and even giving the multiverse a good old shake with his punches. At number 10 is Scarlet Witch, who's at number 10 not because she's less unstoppable than any of the rest of the heroes on this list, but because it's so blatantly obvious. A natural conduit of dark magic with the power to bend reality to her will. That's Scarlet Witch in a nutshell. She can rearrange the fabric of existence itself, crafting and shaping the world around her like a master sculptor. And if you're thinking that sounds like a recipe for some serious chaos, well, you're not wrong. With her chaos magic, Wanda can do things that can make mere mortals like us question the very nature of reality. She's brought the Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes, down to their knees. She's conjured entire beings into existence, her children, and yes, she's even wiped out a few Avengers entirely. Talking about cleaning up the House of M. The nerds will get it. But it doesn't stop there. This chaos magic isn't just something that she picked up in a weekend workshop. No, she was practically born for it. From day one, Wanda had this uncanny knack for magic. Then a little boost from Chthon, the old god of chaos, took her powers to a whole new level. And just when you thought that wasn't enough, the experiments at Wundagore Mountain cranked up her magical prowess even further. Think of it like a magical power-up montage. But it's not just about raw power, it's also about the connections she can tap into. Scarlet Witch can channel energy from dimensions and entities that are beyond our understanding. Chthon, Kitterak, Morgan, I got those wrong, probably. These aren't just your friendly neighborhood spirits. And get this, she's even considered the nexus of being for the entire universe. That's like being the fulcrum that balances the cosmic seesaw. Now, sure, Marvel's universe is no stranger to magic users, with Sorcerers Supreme and mystical maestros galore, but what sets Scarlet Witch apart is the scope of her chaos magic. She's a reality warping dynamo, a serious force to be reckoned with, and a one-woman show of astonishing feats. If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. It would help out a bunch. At number 9 is Sentry, who's another obvious pick but isn't as well known as some of the other big players on this leaderboard. A hero with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, a force that transcends the bounds of mere mortals. Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, stands as a unique marvel, and in my humble opinion, even outshines the famed Superman. You see, the Golden Sentry Serum doesn't just bestow upon him the universe's zenith of strength. No, it granted him a constellation of abilities that read like the ultimate wish list. The Sentry surfs through the cosmos faster than light, an interstellar traveler with a teleportation knack that make the Nightcrawler blush. But that's not all, folks. Hold your applause, because his molecule manipulation prowess once toppled the mighty Molecule Man. Photokinesis, his dazzling control over light, isn't just about setting up stellar selfies. He can blaze brighter than the sun, dematerialize at will, and throw incandescent bolts that'll make Iron Man think twice. His psionic might lets him knit Psyche together, tinker with memories, and just casually halt Mjolnir mid-air, no worthiness required. But there's more to that power buffet. Biokinesis, the art of reshaping biology itself. The Sentry has resuscitated himself from the brinks, stitched others' wounds with thought, and even, brace yourself, brought people back from the great beyond. At number 8 is Captain Marvel. Let's talk about an Avenger who's like a cosmic Energizer Bunny on steroids. And I'm not just talking about the old red, white, and blue color scheme. Carol Danvers, known as Captain Marvel, or Carol if you're feeling friendly, is a force to be reckoned with. Picture this, she's minding her business at NASA, probably wearing some seriously cool lab goggles, when fate's like, hey, wanna be a walking energy power station? And the result is an instant energy-fueled superhero package. Let's run down the list of powers, shall we? Super strength, check. I'm talking lifting an entire Celestial, not your typical weightlifting session, mind you. Super stamina, like she could do a 24-hour dance marathon without breaking a sweat. And speaking of sweat, her superhuman durability makes planet-destroying explosions just a minor inconvenience. But wait, there's more. Superhuman agility, reflexes that are so fast, you'd think that she was playing a game of cosmic dodgeball. And let's not forget the healing factor that makes her practically Wolverine on steroids. Sorry, Logan. Carol's got you beat. But her crowning achievement is self-propelled flight at 3 times the speed of sound, even in the vacuum of space. I mean, I can barely keep up with my own thoughts, and she's zipping around the cosmos like she's late for a Cree tea party. And there's also a little thing called precognition. But yeah, she's also basically a cosmic fortune teller, but with a twist. She can randomly anticipate her opponent's moves, like she's playing a game of chess and reading their minds at the same time. So whether or not you're in the I Heart Carol Danvers fan club or not, you gotta hand it to her. She's the kind of superhero who would make you wonder if the universe had an energy drink before creating her.
Number 7. Thor. Thor, Odin's son, the Asgardian god of thunder, is one of the most powerful heroes that Marvel has. Whenever anyone talks about Avengers level threats, one of the key elements of that is whether Thor can just handle the situation on his own. In both the comics and the MCU, Thor and the Hulk are repeatedly given reasons to not be able to show up so that certain storylines can actually be compelling. Specifically, I'm talking about Civil War, where Thor had to deal with Ragnarok back home on Asgard, and that was all because if he was on Earth during Civil War, whoever had him on their side would just automatically win. Being the son of Odin, the Allfather, and Gaia, an elder god, Thor has all the incredible powers of the Asgardians, but boosted to a whole other level thanks to his mother. As the god of strength as well as thunder, he is one of the strongest Marvel characters, like I said, being able to either defeat or stalemate astronomically strong beings like the Midgard Serpent, the Hulk, the Silver Surfer, Gladiator, and Hercules. His stamina lets him basically fight forever, and he is next to completely invulnerable. Not to mention his weather and energy manipulation and the use of his hammer. Even when he isn't in possession of his hammer though, and is just Thor Odin's son, he is still a force to be reckoned with, and, especially recently, he keeps getting more and more boosts to his power, like when he was Rune King Thor, or now that he is All-Father Thor, which gives him the Thor Force, and he's gone beyond even that when he became the Herald of Galactus. There's more to Thor, but I think I've said enough. Number 6. Captain Marvel. Whether you love or hate Carol Danvers, there is no denying that this energy-wielding superhero is an absolute powerhouse. Carol was the head of security at NASA when she was accidentally subjected to the Psyche Magnetron machine, which imprinted her with energy from the superhero Mar-Vell's Kree Negabands, which gave her superhuman strength that allowed her to support the weight of a dead Celestial, super stamina that lets her exert herself for over 24 hours without getting tired, superhuman durability to withstand planet-destroying explosions, superhuman agility and reflexes that are next to instant, and a regenerative healing factor that exceeds Wolverine's and can be extended to others. She has self-propelled flight at 3 times the speed of sound, even in the vacuum of space, and flash precognition that allows her to randomly subconsciously anticipate the moves of her opponents. But all of that is somewhat secondary to what is arguably her main power, the ability to control, absorb, and manipulate energy of a whole bunch of different kinds, which extends to let her project her spirit, manipulate molecules, transmute matter, create energy constructs, and even boost up her already OP abilities. There is literally no denying that Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, is straight up just broken. Number 5. The Hulk. It's almost a requirement that the Hulk show up on this list. The gamma-powered Green Goliath has been around for a long time, and ever since he showed up, there are only a small handful of people who have ever been able to stop him without using some kind of magic or reality warping. His infinite strength has a lot to do with that. A strength that grows based on his anger and has never ever reached a cap, allowing him to destroy entire planets, be a threat to entire galaxies, and being able to shake the entire multiverse with his punches. It also has a lot to do with his basically limitless dynamic durability, which has allowed him to survive attacks from enchanted weapons, powerful blasts of energy, stronger than ground zero nuclear explosions, the Human Torch's Nova Blast, and he could stand up to forces that could crush adamantium and destroy entire planets. But now, thanks to Immortal Hulk, we know that the Hulk actually literally cannot die, coming back from the below place through green doors. Actually, in that story we even get to see an alternate future where the One Below All uses the Hulk to destroy literally everything in existence. And the Hulk is still showing more and more of his potential with the reveal of the Titan personality that was able to fire energy blasts and is utter nightmare fuel.
And for Wonder Woman, the Dark Knight's death metal story wrapped up early 2021 with issue number 7, and in that issue, and the issue before, we see Wonder Woman at her most powerful yet. In a godlike form that's even more powerful than a god, as the Cosmic puts it, she has been a god before, but at this moment she's more. At this point she's ascended past godhood and can see all of time and all realities. Yeah, she sees every Earth timeline and every Earth, and she faces off against the Batman, who laughs in his most powerful form. The fight is so intense that they hit each other through time itself. Diana here is charged with anti-crisis energy, a concussive force that links all of history and all lives as one story. Then she moves on to become one of the hands that creates the multiverse going forward, with no walls and greater possibilities. She aids in creating the future state story that we see in the issues following, and that is seemingly the centerpiece of DC 2021 and the new world, I guess you could say. So yeah, Wonder Woman becoming a god and remaking the universe seems pretty unstoppable to me, considering how no one stopped her. And at 3, Aquaman. Oh, look at that, I managed to reference Flashpoint twice on this number. Hell yeah, or this list. Hell yeah. In the animated Flashpoint Paradox movie and the comics, the world is much different to what it originally was. Mostly due to the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman, who end up being the villains of the movie, and it's a lot. Thanks to them being former lovers, while Aquaman was married to Mera, who Wonder Woman then killed when Mera tried to get her revenge. Yeah, but considering how it's Amber Heard, I kinda get it. But to be fair, she also wears Mera's crown running around, so it's not like she's really saying, oh, it was self-defense. She's just like taunting him. However, this war resulted in the destruction of the planet, at the literal moment that Barry was able to get enough speed to go back into the Speed Force, okay? It's a suspenseful moment where Reverse Flash has just been killed by Batman so that Barry would have enough speed to run back and stop himself from saving his mother. But yeah, he managed to get into the Speed Force before the world's destruction caught up with him, but the world was still destroyed. So you know what, that's good enough for me. Okay, this version of Aquaman was only stopped when the world ended. So yeah, yikes. We thought he was only good in the water. But ultimately, in at number 2, the Spectre. Spectre is the embodiment of divine vengeance and serves as a member of the enforcers of God's will. When someone is nearing death, Spectre utilizes them as a vessel to carry out the universe's purpose. In an attempt to save John Constantine, who had caused a major disruption by altering the timeline, Spectre intervened. He guided and protected Barry Allen through the Speed Force, shielding him and the new universe from Darkseid's pursuit. However, this upset the cosmic balance, and the universe sought to punish Constantine for his actions. Despite recognizing Constantine's past deeds and offering him a seemingly idyllic eternity with his loved ones in the House of Mystery, Constantine's self-loathing transformed the experience into a nightmarish existence. When Constantine confronted Spectre and explained the circumstances, the Spectre realized his inability to offer further assistance, but still, the Spectre has the powers of a god. He's literally just the form of God's wrath, as just a thing that can move from undead body to body. Yeah, that's gonna be unstoppable. It's freaking God's wrath as a manifestation. Damn. And finally, in at number 1, Dr. Manhattan. Technically it counts, technically he's in the DC universe. Dr. Manhattan is considered the most powerful superhero in comics because he possesses ultimate powers. He debuted in the graphic novel limited series Watchmen, published in 1986 and 1987, and Manhattan later on became a major player in the DC universe. He was revealed to be responsible for the Flashpoint event, creating the New 52 timeline in the process, something that removed 10 years of history of the DC characters, and he did it on his own. So how could we not include Dr. Manhattan on the list when Jesus Christ. The dystopia in The Watchmen is caused by superheroes who thought that they could save the world but ended up leaving it hollow and broken, but Dr. Manhattan created Flashpoint on his own. So if we were saying that Barry is unstoppable because he was able to change reality, and that Aquaman was unstoppable because he was able to destroy reality and only got saved when Flash rewrote it, yeah, I think that Manhattan's gonna take the top spot. If you don't agree and you think it should be Batman, then yell at me in the comments. Alright, that's fine, I've accepted it.